literally.
She better shade the tape. She better shade the tape.
Kobe is celebrating a milestone. It's her 30th birthday. I want to make it really special.
So I just want to talk about just a few of the logistics for the... Hey guys, welcome to Little Black Book 91. We're talking to you guys obviously about Love and Marriage Detroit, episode 4, talking about skating on thin ice. We wanted to have a real conversation about the show. I like what I'm seeing on the show so far. I think the couples are relatable. I think the people on it, they're giving some real family, marriage kind of issues, and I think we can work with that. So I really am enjoying that aspect of the show, and I think it does serve well as well. So I'm looking forward to discussing more of that show. Now, a quick roundup of what was happening. First and foremost, let's talk about Russel. Hypocrisy is mad. How can Russel talk about not even Russel, sorry, Colby and Russell, because Colby was out here talking about how can your wife not know about the fact you signed a new artist. Before you start opening your mouth and talking about somebody else's relationship, just remember your man now, Russell, is trying to buy a whole gym without you. Don't ever think you're too esteemed and too high that your position can't also be put in jeopardy as well. Instead of you focus on someone else's relationship, you should keep your mouth shut, because very quickly it turns around to being you. And then obviously we also had Brandon and his wife. Now, what's really interesting about this is we got to see only a little bit between the counselor and Brandon and his wife. Obviously, Brandon stayed away from home. Brandon stayed away from the home and then came back and everything, which was cool. I get it. But I'm like, wait, hold on a minute, Brandon. Hold on a minute, Christina. Okay. I'm gonna need the counselors to hold them both accountable, okay? Because Christina was out here from the last episode talking about, I can have another you in a minute, baby. You must not know about me. You must not know about me. I can have another you in a minute. Don't you ever for a second guess the thinking. You're irreplaceable. That she literally said that to him face in their argument. So I was waiting for the counselors to hold them both accountable for their stupidity. But they held Brandon accountable, which is fair. I mean, I understand that part. I just wanted to hold her accountable as well. And then obviously as well, then to going on to obviously the last couple, Anthony and his wife. I really like their scenes. Can't lie to you, because I love the fact that Anthony has a healthy respect for his father-in-law. Listen, he had a problem. He spoke to his father-in-law. His father-in-law spoke to him. They hashed it out and they moved forward. Do you know what I'm saying to you? And I love that. I love the fact that they could have that conversation. I love the fact that, he might have felt what he did feel, about the situation, but at least he had a conversation and aired it out and said how he felt, and they're not like in a beef stage or anything. It's just simply two men just having a conversation. Do you know what I mean? And I like that. I really did, and I really rated that as well. And I understood where he was coming from when he wanted to support, but it makes sense now a bit more to have a bit more of the conversation between the two. And the father gave one of the greatest advices, which I didn't even realize. Is the father said, listen, hey, look, you want to make sure that you two are on the same page. So my advice was to make sure that you guys are on the same page, because you don't want to create distance between the two of you. And I get it, and I love that advice. I think it was pretty sound. Unity first. That's the first and foremost. Unity first. You know what I mean? So yeah. And then finally, yes, the whole situation with Christina and Colby. Was a madness as well, because do you know what it is? Yeah, I don't get it. The beef. It sounded like Colby was having a conversation with the person first, as well. Sorry, not first, but aside. Christina was having the same conversation with the person. It got mentioned. Colby's like, great. I wouldn't mind being on the same thing with my friend Christina. Absolutely wonderful. So where does it go wrong? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't see why there should be a beef there. You know, I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Um, I don't get it. Like, yo, if I get a deal and they say I got to pitch it with Sean, I'm gonna be like, all right, cool. They want me and Sean. Psh, I'm gonna enjoy. I'm like, I'm winning. I'm getting paid. Sean getting paid. We all getting paid. We all eating. I really don't get the beef behind not being able to collaborate with somebody that you're cool with. You get what I'm saying? It reeks of jealousy and it reeks of envy and it reeks of you not wanting to share the platform. I'm not saying that you didn't bring up the idea. You definitely brought up the idea, but you know, like she was also pitching at the same time. It's not like she stole the idea. You know what I mean? That part doesn't make sense. And you allowed your husband to get involved. You allowed your husband to get in your ear, talking about she's copying you and all this kind of stuff. Should have never allowed that to happen. And then final point is the beef between Russell and Brandon. Right? Can I just say this? I don't like people like Russell. I'm gonna tell you why. Don't use your muscles to enforce yourself in this conversation. I don't like that kind of stuff. The threats of, you know, it's obviously it's next week, but don't be using your muscles, bro. Because you were like at the end of the day, like it's a conversation. People say what they're saying. You know, you feel like he's wrong. He feels like you're wrong. He's supporting his wife. You're supporting your wife. I don't like people using their muscles as a way to try and fear people. Do you know what I'm saying? So yeah. But anyway, we'll get the conversation flowing. I can see. Oh, okay, I see you, babe. No worries. And so we'll get the conversation flowing as well. We'll get Sean on the stage here. But what's Gucci, bro?
What's going on? It seems like every episode of Detroit, my bad. I'm thinking DC because DC's coming out next week.
Yeah, bro. I said Detroit when I said DC earlier on as well, bro. So it's on my mind, bro.
Yes, so every episode is chock full of interesting things. So this was another good one.
Instant things indeedy, bro.
Quite spicy.
What was your just overall thoughts?
I think everybody got a little bit of problems. All these couples ain't near one of them perfect. You know, I heard you earlier where, you know, Colby was trying to position, you know, like, oh, we communicate about things. Nope, y'all don't. Because Russell is down to the gym making plans and getting ready to get y'all into a whole nother investment, and it doesn't even look fully fleshed out. So I think they just need to, you know, pipe it down a little bit. I like the relationship that Anthony has with his in-laws. That for sure. I think you know, it seems like his father-in-law is a sounding board for him, so that's good. I don't think the father-in-law he didn't really do much. He didn't really say, you know, oh, I hear your point, or, you know, I understand. He just listened and just like, yeah.
How you feel?
Yeah, exactly. I'm sorry you felt that way, but you needed to be back home. That's it.
Yeah. No. That's the bottom line.
It beats that way. My daughter was upset. She wanted to come home. You need to have your asses
be home.
back in Detroit. Okay?
Yep.
So, but God be with you, my brother.
Godspeed.
He gave him a quick benediction. Now off you go.
Interesting question. What's your thoughts then? Because obviously then we had two father-in-laws, right? First, last episode and this episode, two different ways of handling it, right? We had Russell Colby meeting her parents, but then hearing what the father was saying to her is considerably different to what we were hearing necessarily from Anthony and his father-in-law. Do you know what I mean? So what's your kind of thoughts that kind of difference that you might have seen?
I mean, I think like if I were a father-in-law, I would try to be a little more impartial, you know, without saying so much how you feel and leaning more towards one side or the other, right? I think that is a good in-law does that. And neither one of those in-laws showed any balance. They just, you know, they didn't even try. Even if and I don't doubt that Anthony's needed to be back in Detroit, right? We understand that. However, I think when somebody is seeking you out, especially if it's not your blood parent, you want to at least give the appearance that you've heard what they've said, right? And you give them some leeway, right? You give the other party some leeway. He didn't do that. And Colby's parents were all team Russell, the mother and the father, about Russell going into the ministry. So I think like that I think the father was all too pleased to see his son-in-law become a pastor that I don't think he could be partial to understand how Colby felt left out of the process. So I think like I'm glad that the fathers are there. And listen, there's no handbook for parenting, there's no handbook for
Yeah.
in-laws, but just from an outsider's perspective looking in, you just want to be a little bit more, don't like have Colby feel beaten up and then Anthony felt like you didn't really listen to him. I think Anthony respects him so much that he just took the advice, but I
Yeah.
think you need to give a little bit to just listen.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was interesting because I think watching obviously Colby's dad, say what he said, I could see how Colby was left out. You know what I mean? I could see how Colby might have felt like she had nobody kind of supporting her and that she's replicating the cycle of her mother, right? Because the mother too wasn't really as vocal in that conversation, it was more the dad, right? In that situation. And so I understood, I understood where, Colby would have felt like, you know what, I've been railroaded here. Plus, not only that, the fact that he went behind her back to the parent-in-law to go and have this conversation with the dad, knowing that Colby would probably say no. It's not about her saying no; it's about her being informed. You could have had the conversation first with Colby, and then had the parent-in-law as well. But he's setting a very dangerous precedence by going behind her back, going to a parent-in-law, and using them as almost triangulating, not necessarily in the most narcissistic way, but almost triangulating by using a third party to almost add some weight to his argument that he should do what he's doing. Now, when you married this woman, you knew she said she ain't want to be this first lady. Yeah, I'm not saying that God don't call us, out the wild, but I don't. Let me just say this. Russell, is he really calling you? I'm just asking. You know what I mean? I ain't gonna say he ain't, but I'm just saying, is he really calling you? No, that's what I'm gonna say, right? That's what I'm saying. You know what I mean? Is he really calling you, or is this something that you want to do? I think you have to be very, very careful as well, not to try and, me personally, not to judge it too much, but also at the same time as well, for you not to invoke God's name and saying that God wanted me to go to this place, and really and truly, God be looking at you like, okay, well then did I call her to also come and be first lady? Because when I called you, this wasn't maybe this wasn't the situation we're meant to be in. Who knows? But yeah, that is awkward in that sense. But he should, from a practical level, he should have never gone behind her back and did that. And that is actually, I'm guessing, the precedence he's already set before then. This is not the first time, because the way she reacted in episode 3, it sounded like they've done this has happened before, where he's not communicated, not spoke. But you knew that also, Colby, when you got with him, that he has that attitude where he gonna do what he won't do. The second part is, I think you hitting it beautifully as well. I think Anthony might have thought maybe there was gonna be a bit more support from the dad. Maybe he wanted a bit more support because of the man. And I think every place he turned, there was no support, right? Which is really painful. And I do understand where he's coming from as well. And I think Atlanta probably wasn't handled very well in the way it probably got handled. She said you got to come home because these kids need you. But when have kids not needed parents? You go to work when they need you, but you still got to go. You know what I mean? Like, kids have always needed their parents. It's nothing new. So when I heard that excuse, I was a bit like, I wonder what that really means. You know what I mean? Like, the kids have always needed their parents. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I wish I had more time with my parents, like when I was younger. You know what I mean? We all wished we could have more hours in the day with them, but we also understand. So it was a bit interesting, that part. But I think you're actually right. The dad heard him and did obviously your feelings are your feelings, everything like that. Maybe a little bit more could have been spoken about with him. Maybe a little bit more of a one-to-one conversation, a bit more in depth in terms of that. But I like the fact that he said the reason why I gave the advice was he wanted unity. You know what I mean? But it's hard, like you said, bro. It is very difficult to be objective because your children are involved in it, and you've got to somehow kind of remove yourself from the situation in that sense. But it's not easy to do so,
Yeah, I think like I think the thing that they had highlighted is his son was having some challenges in the school. And I think it was some white kids that called him the N word, or because he was, the school I guess they're in is predominantly white, and they were having some challenges around that, and he really was starting to feel uncomfortable in school and needed the father to help him through that. So I understood that aspect, and I think like what I would have hoped, because pastors usually are used to giving, whether they are trained in counseling or they're used to giving counsel, right? People seek them out. They're usually trained in how to deal with problem resolution. I wish that he would have said, listen, next time, Anthony, there's something like this that you want to do, let's get ahead of it, talk to the family so that we can support you, right? So that
Yeah.
we can come up with a plan. Because what happened here was your move to Atlanta, or you back in, it wasn't well planned, and it was
Yes.
during a very difficult time during the pandemic, and the weight of so much was on your wife's shoulders. So we tried to step in, but really because of the environment and the lack of planning, we couldn't support you the best way we wanted you to. Because if you heard him, and when he had that tearful exchange, it was about not feeling supported. It was not feeling
Mm.
like he was on his own, and feeling like everybody had ganged up on him. I think ultimately he knew that he needed to come back to Atlanta, and he did that. But his
Yeah.
feelings, and you talked about
Resentment.
this before, right? His feelings were still in that place of not feeling supported, not feeling loved, not feeling like the family had his back, and felt like he was all alone. So I think that's what we needed to kind of get them more to address, that part, and not dismiss it, but talk about, hey, listen, we understand how you felt. We don't want you to feel that way. Let's figure out ways that we can better support you going forward.
Yeah, and I think even with that, as like what I think, what I love and again that's what I really like their dynamic so far. You know what I mean? So far, I think they are working through things, and they seem to have a healthy way of communicating. So I'm not mad about it. And I think you made a good point there, right? It's about, like, I think the language use is really good as well, which is, hey, look, next time let's look at how we can best support you in going forward and how to implement this. Because you're absolutely right. It was a pandemic. It was obviously, the child was obviously then getting bullied at school. There's just kind of a few moving parts. And I think pandemics is a really awkward time because people were in such disarray because of the uncertainty. You know what I mean? Like the chance of, we weren't sure, catch it, bin it, kill it, because you might die. Like, it was just wild. Like, when we look back at it now, it is a wild time to look back at. We were indoors. Okay. All right. We were indoors, predominantly working from home, whatever. We would go outside and we'd stand 6 feet away from somebody next. Like, it was a wild time. You know what I mean? So there was a lot of anxiety and nervous, and then obviously she was on the front line too at the same time. I can see how this move might not have been the best time to make the move, in terms of emotional stability for the family, and that's why. So I think it's also as well about expressing on both sides the gravity of what they were feeling at that moment in time. I said the same thing. I said, sometimes you just can't understand where someone's coming from until you actually understand where they're coming from. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes you have to hear what they were thinking at that time. And I'm just kind of imagining, I'm trying not to be like facetious and be like, she wanted them to stay at home because I'm trying to imagine the fact that, she's frontline. She's seen all the madness too. She's thinking about the kids, and there's a lot of anxiety and not sure what's going on next. And then he's leaving one, to another city, going to Atlanta, which at the time I think Atlanta was open. If I remember correctly, during the pandemic, Atlanta had no qualms. I think it was open. It was slightly open. I remember you guys were a bit crazy. Atlanta was a bit crazy. Y'all was a little bit open.
The city was on lockdown, but the people were not.
Okay, that's that's a better way to put it.
Therein lies the difference.
Cause y'all were up in the club where we do things like y'all were. I was hearing so many stories about Atlanta. Atlanta was open. Thank you, Phil. Atlanta was the only place I heard in America that was open like there was no tomorrow. So, but again, just jokes aside, but it's about understanding that this could have been a really tumultuous time, and I get where he's coming from though. But like you said, bro, I think the next conversation is say, how best can I support you next time going forward. Because if she doesn't do that, and if the father-in-law doesn't do that, there's going to be a whole lot of resentment that's going to sit on him, that he's going to blame them for, of them preventing him from going to the top. As a man, specifically as well, and I'll say this specifically for men, if you have ambition and vision, anybody trying to stop you from doing that, you are going to end up probably resenting them, because you're thinking about how you can be great. And as a man, you're called to provide, and that also includes your career and how you're going somewhere. Again, this is not any offense to women, but we could have you at home. I'm just gonna be honest with you. I know it don't sound good, you don't like it, but the reality is you're not often judged by what you produce. You understand what I'm saying to you? You're judged by what you nurture, and it's completely different. So as a man, he's thinking, I've got to go and get it and grab it. And that can be, when someone stops you, can be a little bit it can be a little bit painful. So yes, I think that was good conversation what you said there, Sean, about supporting him through that. You know what I'm saying? Jay, I think you open your mic. You want to say something? Go for it.
I wanted to jump on what Sean said, because I think for sure, evening everybody, but I think for sure what Sean said was very important, that just communicate, because a lot of us do this a lot of times. We want people to help, us, and we want people to support us, but we never include them in what our dreams are and our goals. I do believe he had told Doc that, hey, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to Atlanta. My question is, what part of the pandemic is this? Because a lot of studios were closed at the beginning of it. So there's no need for you to be down there at that point. But if it was right when they reopened, I can understand his urge to say, look, while they're open, they're taking people that's willing to do it. Let me get on the ground and running. The problem is she's at home with the son, who is feeling some type of way about things that are happening at school. And what he needs is his father in these moments. It's who she is as he's transitioning through these things. And having a daughter who grew up in Detroit, well, for a little bit with her dad, and understanding how Detroit still is, there's a lot of racism heavy in Detroit. So just having a grandfather is not enough, because a grandfather's of a particular age. He's not going to be running up to there trying to argue and fight with a bunch of people. Having my dad there, and my dad comforting me in these moments, is very important to any child, especially a son. So that's what I think Doc was looking at in that moment, is like, hey, your son actually needs you. We will love you here, but your son needs you here. So you need to make some more time. And what it looks like in their eyes is you're choosing work over us. And Coach, you already know how it feels to come from a parent like that does that already. It does something to you in the long run. It makes you feel some type of way. Yes, it grows you and makes you independent, but at the same time, you feel something on the inside that gives you a void that I say, I don't need anybody. And so you start to do that yourself as a child. And that's not what they want him to do. And sometimes when that happens too, when the parent is not there, the child start lashing out and they start doing other things. And so to prevent all of that, it's like, come home. You don't have to be here, but you're saying you were going back and forth, and it sounds like he was staying a lot longer than coming back and forth. You know, and that's just, even like on the boat, what the sister said, if you had just told us this, we could have been there for it. You don't tell us these things. You want us to support you, and we do, but you have to include us in your plans if you want that support. We don't know what you're doing. It just looks like you're running away from your family.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just sometimes you just got to open up, say, hey, this is what's going on. Like you both said, have a plan in order, because that's generally what we love out of our men, is him having an actual plan for us to say, okay, babe, I hear you. Let's try it. And that was all. Just like when he came to the father is like, I hear you. Had you said something, we could work with that, but you just ran off. And when we need you, you're not available. So it's just like, you have to grow up. And I understand, apart from on his side, because he sounds like he's been dependent on himself solely. And so when you depend on yourself solely, you really don't have to communicate with anybody else. But now that you have a family, you have to transition out of that me thing, and it's us. So I think moving forward, like you said, Sean, if he communicates better, some of his stuff a little bit more, they'll be all right.
Go for it, Sean. I know you had the mic better on, so sorry.
Yeah, no, I think that's a big part. But I like that Anthony and Latoya, they go to church. Latoya, right? That's her name.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm gonna mess up her name.
Just been calling her doctor.
Dr. Latoya. Excuse me. Let's not forget her title. So I think I like they go to church together. I think they have a good support system around them. So I like that. I want to hear Latoya, being a little more vocal. So sometimes I think she plays the background a little too much. And then she had a couple little side comments in the confessionals this time. Looks like she was jumping on Colby's side when her and Christina had that little disagreement. So I wish she would have said a little more in there if that's really how she felt, or maybe stay out of it. I think stay out of it. I think they had enough going on by themselves. She could have stayed out of that one. But definitely, I think she just needs to be a little more vocal when it comes to Anthony. She could definitely direct him better on this man's meeting he keeps talking about, this man's club, whatever he's doing. To me, it just don't.
It sounded bad until he started explaining it at the roller rink. I was like, if that's the direction you're going in, that sounds great. But before,
it sounded crazy. But when he started talking, I called cap, because it didn't line up with anything he's ever said before. Oh, the women are taking too much. It's too much on their backs, and we need to pick up the mantle. Since when you calling grown women little girls and calling them birds, that's when you're taking women's feelings into consideration? No, bro. You just tried to flip that. I think he tried to flip that to just make it sound better than what it really is.
But he need to stay with that flip. Don't flip back.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's play first clip. Let me get one of the clips on, and we'll start the conversation. All right.
We need to talk about this. I'm excited to potentially work with Christina. We've been talking about collabing for a while now. So I'm a little confused about what's happening. Where are you headed? You look like you headed on a high.
No, Christina Colby thing started actually here. So obviously Colby was trying to get in contact with Christina to have a conversation, and it wasn't going through. So Christina was actually not replying to her text at the time when she was trying to sort it out. This actually could have been sorted out before we got to a fight at the end too. Because if she had replied to the messages, we should have known. But what's your thoughts on Colby and Christina and at this conjuncture here, where she's trying to text her and not really getting through to him?
Listen, I think it's a touchy thing, and I think that my opinion is, could it have worked out? Yes. But I think when you are the second person coming in and you're not getting a response, you need to move accordingly, right? I think that's the worst thing to start saying is, oh, the person is being, they're being selfish and this and that. It's like, if you want to work with somebody, then unfortunately it's going to have to be on their terms. And if you're not getting the response, then that's a no. If you don't get a yes, it's a no. Right? We know that, right? We're all adults, we're all grown. And I could get it that it could be a conversation, but you can't be in your feelings if the person didn't straight out tell you, sure, I can work with you. They said, oh, so-and-so has already got something going. Maybe you two can work together, reach out to them and see. You reach out, they don't respond. You have to move accordingly. That's one thing I've learned. People, everybody's grown. And I might, listen, I might want you to do something, coach, but you may not want to do it. And sometimes it's not always easy to say no to a friend, right? So I got to read the room. And if the room is you're not saying yes, then I'm just going to have to leave you alone until we can talk about it. But I just don't like the fact of I say no, and now you get all caught up in your feelings, and it's a whole big deal. I should be able to say no, right? You might be upset that you felt I didn't handle it correctly, and we could talk about that, but don't get all hyphy. I think she was too hyphy. She came off a little spoiled and a little entitled to me. That was my opinion about it. Again, I don't think she was wrong for wanting clarity. They definitely could have clarity. But, you know, listen, you weren't the first one to get there. So you're going to have to come on the humble and not be on some, why did I get it? And why are you being selfish? It was starting to get annoying to me, honestly.
That's funny, because I didn't see it that way, Sean. I seen it partially. I get what partially you're saying, like move accordingly. However, when we're having conversations prior to this whole thing, saying we're gonna collab, we're gonna do something, it's, in my opinion, it's like, oh, here's a perfect opportunity. Yes, the opportunity might not be the right one overall, but let's flesh it out and see what happens. I didn't get her feeling some type of way initially in that call, like it, particularly in this scene. It's just like, let me reach out to her, see what it is, left you some messages. Okay. I think when we get to the face-to-face part is where she start actually feeling some type of way, because if I'm sitting in your face and you're telling me, oh, I didn't get your text, I didn't get your call, and it's like, no, I know I called you. Oh, yeah, I got your call, but it's like, girl, just pick up the phone and just say, hey, I'm going through something. Something's going on right now. Hold on, let me get back to you on some clarity on what's going on. I don't know what's going on. Some kind of communication. You know what I'm saying? That's all it takes, is a little bit of communication. And I do understand Kobe was going through, I mean, not Kobe, but Christina was going through whatever with Brandon. It seemed like at that same time, but you could just say, hey, let me sit on it. Let me get it back to you. I'm in the middle of something. You know what I'm saying? Any other time we're communicating, we're back and forth and it's no problem. All of a sudden now it's a problem. And so it does seem some type of way, like, were you being genuine when you say, let's collab or whatnot? However, well, I guess we'll talk about that whole part when we get there. But in this moment, I didn't kind of see her feeling no type of way. It's just like, let me reach out. This would be the perfect opportunity because I want to work with this brand. They said they're already working with you. We said we were going to collab. Let's see what happens of it. And to me, I think collabing with people, you're an influencer, I'm an influencer. I'm bringing my market to you. You're bringing your market to me. Now we have a bigger market together or whatever. And we're reaching out to more people who may like us as individuals and now like us as partners together. I don't see nothing wrong with it. We're both making money or whatnot. And, you know, some people don't see it like that, and that's fine. And I get you, Sean, we're all grown and we're going to move, but a little communication in our grown age is helpful. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get that. I just think, like, sometimes people got to leave people room to communicate when they're ready. And I think people also got to understand not everybody's going to communicate in your time. And when something's a priority to you, it's a priority to you. But it wasn't a priority to Christina to communicate with her at that time, right? And listen, I'm guilty of it. Sometimes somebody will text me and I'm just not in a headspace. I don't want to talk.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm entitled to communicate back to you whenever I want to. And I
No,
think, like, people, and I feel like Christina is one of those people that's like, well, I'm calling you, I'm trying to text you, I'm calling you, I'm trying to get a response. It's like,
Kobe.
yeah, because this is important to you now, but it's
Mhm.
not. She had something else going on. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, sometimes you got to wait a day or two. It just,
But that's what I'm saying. I
is
get
that
all
way.
that part and whatnot, but the part that would frustrate me, like I think it frustrated Kobe, is to sit in my face and tell me that you didn't get my text, you didn't get my call, and I know you did. It's like, oh, all you have to do is tell me right there. I mean, I was going through something. Can we still, even if you don't want to talk about it then, can we still talk about it later? That's it. Cool.
I
You know what I'm
think she
saying? Now,
did
if it's a
say
rush for
that.
me, then I need to move on. If it's a rush for me, yeah, I need to move on. But if I can sit on you waiting and say, let's talk about it later, then I'll sit on waiting and talk about it later. But to play in my face to act like you didn't get my call or my text is disrespectful, especially if we're friends.
I think she did say that. She did say it to her. Listen, I'm not, Christina went down a windy road, right? Because she did say,
Mm-hmm.
listen, I was going through something. And I think that's why the tension, it kept going back and forth, because somebody has to yield, right? If you say, hey, listen, I tried to reach out to you and I didn't get, and my first response is, hey, listen, I was going through some things. You got to dial it back. If you keep pressing me, now we're gonna have an argument, right? Because it's gonna go back and forth. And again, I don't think it's right, wrong. I just think, like, in my perspective, I feel like sometimes people just got to leave. You got to leave people alone, you know, and especially if it's something you want from that person, it's going to be on their terms. And if they're not doing it on the terms that you want them to do it, then you just need to step away, because people aren't always going
Well,
to
if she told her that she was going through something, I hear you out. If she did tell her that, then I hear what you're saying. I didn't hear her say that though. That's the thing. So when they were at the skating rink, if she told her, "Hey, I was going through some things," then I got you, Sean. I hear where you're coming from.
She ain't got no goddamn excuse.
She really not, but I can respect you telling me that I was going through some things though. I can chill back and be like, okay, you good? You want to talk about those things? But yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say hello, everyone.
Hey, Sophie.
Hi, long time. So yeah, I think Colby needs some patience. And again, read the room. If someone is not there, mature enough to respond back the way you want them to respond back, just like Sean said, take a step back. Wait for them to reach that place. And also be in a place to say, okay, clearly this is not working, or clearly this person either needs more time or doesn't want to work with me. So let me step back. But again, it takes a little bit of maturity. It takes patience. Instead of continuously pushing the agenda, pushing the why aren't you answering me? Why didn't you? Kobe is waiting for a response that she would do, rather than looking at Christina and saying, well, maybe this is how Christina is. One, she's going through some marital issues. Two, she might not know how to communicate well. Three, she might not want to work with me. So kind of run all those things through your mind and say, okay, we got to look at the other person's perspective, whether it's right or wrong, instead of pushing to get an answer. What I get from Kobe a lot is she wants answers now. And wisdom teaches you to slow down, take a breath or two, take a step back, take your time. Even with her husband, it's like, okay, there are things that you should work out before you start to really demand things. I think maybe watching herself on the show will slow down how fast she speaks, will slow down how she reacts. Instead of reflecting, she reacts a lot. Her responses are very reactionary. And it comes with age. She is 29. She's a young wife too. And one thing I noticed about this season is that, wow, marriage is it is what it is, right? And these people have locked down. They're not going to leave each other the way they're speaking. And there's so many elements to marriage that I would not want it to be on live television like this, because it's a lot. It's a lot. And people go through seasons of this. It's just when it's recorded and we're watching it and we're seeing it, it's like everyone's like, man, I would get out of there. I would get out of there. These people are pretty locked in. Most marriages, you don't go in to say you're going to get a divorce. But to have it televised, y'all, it's a lot. This season is definitely heavy.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some different. So I see what Sean and Sophie are saying. There's, I guess, from a perspective of, in the terms of the communication aspect. So I'll take a different route, and I think the reason why I was saying that I felt like Christina was bad mind is because I don't care if you've got stuff you're going through, because the issue wasn't the issue where when you look at the story, Colby has some level of friendship with this woman already. So she's got a separate deal she's trying to pitch to her friend. And the friend's like, wait, hold on. It looks like you and this girl, Christina, are doing the exact same thing. Y'all should basically collab. So now, obviously, Colby's like, well, okay, great. Like, I'm not mad at it. Like, shoot, I had my own idea, but you're saying me and Christina have the same idea. I have no idea that you're pitching some amazing idea, whatever. I just know that, she'd already said that you're pitching the same idea. Great. Okay, we can collab. Great. I reach out to you. I text you. I try to call you. You're not answering my message, not because you have marital issues. You're not answering it because you don't want to actually do the collaboration. And rather than actually being straightforward and saying that, you've been sneaky about it. And that, for me, says a lot more. So this I'm her going through stuff. I can't buy it, because you were shirking and jiving at the very end as well. So if you had an opportunity to speak to me one-to-one, or we're in a boat, wherever they were, I don't know where they were, and we're talking face to face, and you have the chance to talk to me face to face and tell me what you're feeling, and I'm going to say, hey, look, I was going through some things. You didn't say that. You was doing shirking and jiving and up and down and skitsy and sliding and doing up, and you were doing a whole lot of stuff which wasn't actually in alignment with that. So just be honest. You didn't want to do the deal with her, and I would understand, because first and foremost, you ruined my anniversary. So I don't know what you think. I don't know what you think they were going to do a little collaboration when your fast ass little mouth was screaming stuff that was doing my husband was doing. So clearly already that's another issue. That's one issue. Number two, right now, Brandon is in her ear. I mean, Brandon is really in Christina's ear, trying to whisper the sweet nothings to try and get these two not to be cool. And so I can understand where Christina's coming from. I just need you to be very honest about it and say, I don't want to do a deal with you, rather than be passive aggressive and try to shift the goalpost and make it as if you didn't understand. Oh, you didn't call me. No, baby, I called you and I texted you. So there's no, I didn't know what was going on. You did. So being passive aggressive and just tell the truth. You do it. And that's okay.
And let's add, Kojo, too, but let's add in that moment too, when she said she got the text, she said, oh, I didn't understand what your text meant. And then Kobe said, that's why I called you. Because she responded to the text. That's the thing. She responded to the text to say, I don't understand what you're talking about. And then made it seem like the lady had called her and told her, oh, Kobe wants to do a deal with you or whatnot. And this, that, and the third. And it's like, that was never the case. Like the lady suggested that you two should do it.
Can I add something?
Go for Phil.
I wanted to add, I agree with Jay and you, Little Black Book, but I think that it should have started from the top. The owner should have communicated with both the ladies that I want you guys to work together, because we don't know what Christina had to do to get this deal. Because I know for me, sometimes I have tunnel vision and I see what I'm doing one way and I'm just moving forward that goal and I'm blocking everybody out. I think Christina definitely did poor communication and she definitely was being passive aggressive. But I think that Harper lady put them in a bad situation. Just because you're my friend, I don't want to do everything with my friends. And I know that doesn't sound nice and friendly, but I don't. Sometimes I want to do things solo dolo, especially when it comes to a business deal for something that I've been working hard on. I got my plans that I want to see this deal. I don't want to do the collaboration with everybody. But I think the key word when I watch this show is manipulation. I see a lot of manipulative behaviors from the husbands, especially. And if we can go back to the little Anthony situation and Russell situation for one moment, if you can indulge me, I think Russell is the real villain of the show. It's not Brandon, it is Russell. Russell is the type of person to smile in your face and to be charming and to stab you in the back. He wants to make moves without his wife's opinion. And then when she talks to him about it, he wants to say, well, you're not supporting me. No, dog, you're manipulating me because you've already determined what you wanted to do and you just want me to go along with you. That is what Russell does. Russell does not want to include Kobe. He just wants to move forward. And as far as Anthony and Dr. LaToya, that relationship is a little complex. I don't think Anthony communicated the Atlanta trip properly. I don't think they planned for the pandemic and other issues. But I also think, like you said, men, we do want our careers to provide for our family. But then when you get married and you have a family, you have to sacrifice. And I don't think he was coming home regularly like he was supposed to do, or like he thought he was doing in times of crisis for the family. I don't think Anthony was doing that. Those tears were performative. What was he expecting when he talked to her dad? That's her dad. He's gonna be biased no matter what. That's my baby girl. I'm gonna make sure I protect my daughter. I think Anthony wanted to go to Atlanta, but I don't think they planned properly for it. I just think they're all very manipulative. I think Brandon is getting in Christina's ear. I think the only person who hasn't shown manipulative behaviors really is Dr. LaToya, but I need her to have a voice. That situation with the kids at school, I think she's so meek and mild. I wanted her to boss up and say, I'm Dr. LaToya. This is unacceptable for my child, because she needs to be able to stand on the strength of herself when Anthony is away, because it seems like he may be away at some times. So that's all I had for now. I just had to get that out. But this Kobe situation, I think it's a little bit of Christina, but the blame needs to go to that Harper lady. She didn't handle business correctly, in my opinion.
No, I agree. I mean, the person in the middle should have communicated with both of them, but Christina got the information. That's why I put the weight on Christina, because in the end she got the information. The person in the middle is thinking to themselves, I can get a 2-for-1 deal here. I'm not mad at that person. They're thinking business. Hey, I can get 2-for-1 deal here. I can get 2 influencers for one. I'm gonna eat good. And so obviously when Colby then contacts Christina, you can say you don't want to do it with your friend. We understand that. We understand that. You know what I'm saying? If I'm doing something, it's not everything that I need everybody to jump on. Do you get what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Like, I don't need that situation, right? Like, I mean, this was even us last year, me, Jay, and Sean. Remember this situation happened like this, where someone was inviting me for dinner. I was like, you better invite the rest of my crew to dinner, because we all going. Like, I ain't going alone. We all going to eat, right? It happened in DC when Clifton and that were inviting me to come and sit down with Joy and Clifton. I said, well, I'm not going alone. We going all eat. So what you want to do, right? Because that's how I am. Now, there are some things I'll be like, no, I need to just do it by myself, and that's fair, right? But I'm going to communicate with the team, be like, hey, guys, this is not a team one. This is a solo one. Sorry, guys, unfortunately. You know what I mean? Right? So
but we don't know.
Was given. The information was given. Whether Christina worked out a deal or not, she was given information. She ignored it. That's completely
But we don't know. We don't know the information that the Harper lady gave Christina. That's the missing piece to the puzzle for me. Christina got the information that she received from Kobe, but we don't know what information she received from the Harper lady. But that does go back to your point, and I do agree. Christina should have communicated with Kobe and just had a conversation. I just think, like you said, a little conversation goes a long way. She didn't communicate effectively as well.
Because they're playing phone tag, the only information that we actually got that Christina received is her saying that the lady had said that somehow they should work together, but made it seem like it was a forced deal or whatnot, not saying that, because when she got off the phone with Kobe, we clearly heard her say, you go ahead and talk to Christina and you guys work it out. But then when Kobe says, when she talks to her, she says, oh, Christina wants to do this deal with you or whatnot. And it's like, was it said like that? And so that's where they both should have came together and said, well, let's call the lady together if this is what you want to do, to figure out how to clear it up, because it's just a simple communication saying that's not what I said. Let's call her because she told me to call you because you guys were already working together and said it would probably be a good idea if I talked to you first. So that's why I reached out to you. Well, let's call the lady. Do you want to do it or not? That's all you have to say. No, yes, no, I don't want to do it with you. Respectfully, she could say no because of all the things that Kobe has did to her. Like, you put my business on front at my anniversary. Why would you do that? You know what I'm saying? As calling yourself a friend. And of course, Brandon is in her ear. So she could easily say, right now, I don't want to do a deal with nobody. I'm going through whatever. This is not the right time. This is not the right deal. Let's find another deal. Just like you said, Phil, she don't know what I went through. I went through a hell and high water to get this deal. I don't want to share this deal with nobody. It is that simple. We are grown. Now you can call me selfish or whatever afterwards. That's fine. But we can find another deal later on. And that's how it works. That's how friendships is. It's just us communicating just that little simple thing like, hey, this is not the deal for us. I worked too hard to get this. Nothing personal.
Well, does Christina have that option based upon the owner? Is this something they have to do together, or can
No, because the owner
Christina
said talk to
actually say
Christina.
no?
The owner said talk to Christina because the owner already had put it in Kobe's box, like I'm already working with Christina. If she agrees to doing the deal, then fine. I'll work with you both, but I already made a deal with her. That's what I heard from the owner. I don't know how you guys heard it, but that's how I heard it from the owner. It's like, I already have a deal in place with Christina. You talk to her. We talk. Let's talk or whatever. Now, if this is going to cut into with the money you making and you don't want your money cut, okay. As a friend, I have to respect that. As a business person, I have to respect that because yes, you worked for that deal. However, you worked to get it. So that's your deal. That lady made a deal with you already before me. But if we can find a way to figure out some more money or whatever, let's try. If they say they don't want to give no more money and I have to cut into yours, fine. I don't want to cut into your money because as a friend, I want you to get yours. I want you to win. I'll go find another deal. But they didn't have that conversation because Christina is playing around like she don't know what's going on.
Mm.
Sophie, you look like you got something on your mind, Mama.
Go for it, Sophie. So I'm just listening to the thing behind. So you good? Go for it, Sophie. You want to add?
I didn't. I was pondering. I was just thinking what was being said.
Okay. I'll just.
Like, I do hear y'all side, Sophie, you know what I'm saying? Like, give people their time and their space to make their decisions. But at the same time, I feel like when you're playing in my face, saying you didn't get my message, you didn't hear me and all this, it's like you got something and you had enough to communicate back to me.
I feel like if they don't want to work with you and you sense that they don't want to work with you, I leave it alone.
But you have to tell me that. Like if you're sitting here saying, oh, I didn't get your message, this, that, and the third, that's not telling me you don't want to work with me.
That's her level of maturity. But, all of that is telling you that she doesn't want to work with you. Even though she's not communicating the right way, you can go by her actions and show, okay, well, like she said at the end, Kobe said it at the end. She's like, okay, I see what you're about. I mean, it took a lot of going back and forth. But that could have been said after you don't text me back, after you don't answer my call. Okay, I see what you're doing. And then you go about your way. Instead of, this. I mean, I guess it's because the friendship was on the line. But even then, it's like, read the room, figure out that this girl does not want to work with you. And she even said, when are you going to bring on collabs? These are the people that I brought on. Basically, her money might be cut in half because you're collabing with her.
But it's not even a person she brought on because she didn't bring the deal to her. Well, this is somebody, low key. This is somebody Kobe was going for herself, and they happened to tell her that they're working with Christina. So this is not something that Christina brought to her and said this, that, and the third or whatever. And I look at it like you said, this is showing Kobe's maturity, but Kobe's 29. Christina is umpteen age and older than her, and Kobe looks up to her as a mentor in the whole thing. So if my mentor is not communicating properly to me, how am I, and showing me this level of maturity, how do you expect me to react mature then?
I was also saying Christina's lack of maturity for not communicating, right? She that, the teacher, the student surpasses the teacher sometimes. And this was a moment for Kobe to be like, wow, I really regarded you as this, but you're showing me that. I figured she could have caused herself less pain and less argument and less going back and forth had she read her moves early. The girl didn't text you back. She didn't call you back. She's showing signs of that she doesn't want to collab. Okay, keep it moving. I mean, she still got to it eventually, but next time she's going to learn earlier to read people, figure it out early, and do a new course.
And maybe this was her first experience.
Yeah, this was her first experience. Yeah, I mean, I think Christina was definitely being, she was being secretive. She was being fake. She was being, not honest, and all of that is off-putting. But that also shows you that, okay, Kobe, maybe you need a better mentor. Maybe this person feels like you're too much of a competition rather than a partner.
Mm-hmm. I see that.
So I was watching it behind the scenes again. Yeah. So okay. So the end scene where they had that argument, the argument's actually more focused about what people did in that particular instance, in it. So I think I personally, I like to hold everybody accountable. I don't think Kobe did anything wrong. I don't think there's one thing she did wrong, because actually she's had a conversation now at the end and told her, I ain't like what you did. Like you out here talking about you want to bring people on and you couldn't communicate, right? And you still doing the Harlem Shake right in front of me, right? So if you're meant to be the mentor, okay, yes, you know what, maybe you're having your moment and she could have communicated better. It's not just that, but I've brought it up to you now. So, and again, Colby already had a friendship with the woman in question. She then contacted the woman. The woman in question then said, this and that. Look, it looks like you two are doing the same deal, blah, 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 blah. So that's what she addresses with her at the very end. There is nothing that Colby could have done. Christina was in the wrong by herself. Like usually I try to find that little, let's get them both accountable. It's not, sorry, Colby brought up to you, held you accountable as she should, and told you about yourself, because you try to flip it by bringing yourself and Brandon by saying she's copying you. And instead of you actually answering the texts and answering the calls, you've now come with some bull crap. It's even worse. When I watched it, I was like, it's even worse, because instead of even addressing the issues, you came with more crap and started saying, hey, you're looking at your husband's now come out and start opening his mouth saying it looks like you're a Colby Christina copycat. It's even worse now. Do you know what I'm saying to you? So now I'm looking at going, raw, like you really are taking the P now. Like I would understand if Colby was super vexed, because you're now taking the piss out of me, because I want to do a deal separately from you. I didn't know you were doing a deal. I got told about it. I've tried to message you. I've tried to call you. We're now addressing it at the very end. And then you want to bring up the fact I'm a copycat as well? Now, maybe she's a copycat. I don't know. Let's watch the rest of the show. But that would be very insulting for me. That would be very insulting for me. If you got an issue with me, just say you got an issue with me. You know what I mean? Yeah. So
I don't think Kobe did anything wrong in this whole situation. I do think she was trying to communicate with Christina as a friend. I think Christina definitely could have communicated, but I still hold that owner as the missing piece to this puzzle. As far as this Kobe cat thing, I think Brandon is just a clown. He was just, his whole reasoning for inserting himself, my wife says I don't protect her, so let me stick up for her. I just think he was being a total clown in that moment, and I think he really escalated that situation between the two ladies. I think it was just some clown type behavior. I don't know. Brandon is just a clown in general. I mean, the man bun, he's a total clown to me.
Can we address that part real quick too? Because that frustrated me too. Because you inserted yourself in woman business, but when Anthony came at your wife, you sat there and agreed. And yes, Anthony might have been on team you in that moment, but you have a whole man checking your wife at a dinner table and totally embarrassing her. And now you want to be up in woman's business, like saying that this other woman's a Kobe cat or whatever the case may be. And it was just like really sassy of him. I'm just going to say it. I'm so sorry. It was really sassy of him in that moment, because really what you're doing is trying to deflect from the bad behavior that you already put forth, of running to the club and doing all these things without your wife's knowledge and then not showing up at home. So now you want to have another villain in her eyes instead of yourself. That's how I just see it. I could be wrong, but that's what it came off to me, as if he's just trying to deflect and put the blame on somebody else for a minute so he can isolate her and get her back. Because you're already in her head telling her that this woman that she's been mentoring, which, yes, if I'm mentoring you, you're going to copy some of my style and blend it with your own, because that's what I'm doing this for, teaching you what I have learned. So I expect you to copy some of my ways. I expect that. But you're manipulating this woman and telling her that this lady is trying to swagger jack you, trying to steal your style, trying to be like you. Of course she's trying to be like me. I'm teaching her to be like me. What are you talking about? I'm her mentor. I actually want her to be better than me. If I'm really trying to mentor this person, I actually want them to be better.
So I don't think she's actually her mentor. I think that's just something they came up with because Christina is like the older one in the group. I don't actually think she's mentoring her. That's just my opinion. But Jay, I agree with everything you say. It's clown behavior. It's deflection. He's Deflection the Clown. That's his new nickname. That's all he was trying to do, was deflect from his own behavior and put it off on someone else to try to gain cool points with his wife, instead of addressing Anthony, the other manipulative clown in the group. You know, it's just crazy. I think Brandon he's not a good husband to this woman. He does not protect her. And I think that's a lot of the things that Christina feels in that marriage. She doesn't feel protected by Brandon, because that's why she's always crying. Every time they get together as a group, she's always leaving in tears and frustrated and upset because he doesn't protect his wife. And in this situation, he's escalated the situation with a friend. Brandon is a total clown. Jay, you hit the nail on the button. Deflection the Clown.
That's too funny. Deflection the Clown.
Okay. Let's move it to the next part then. Let us move to the next part. Obviously, Brandon and obviously Christina got to have a little bit of their situation now because they had to talk to the counselor. So we'll play a little bit of clip so you guys can see it as well.
And that's what I'm afraid of, like, because if you keep thinking like that, it will turn into a resentment.
What hurt you the most about what had happened?
I felt really belittled. I felt very, very belittled. Conversation here that hasn't been had yet is the fact that
they want to get me in trouble. All right, cool. So Colby, Christina and Brandon, they are in a rocky place right now. He had been staying away from the house for a few days, and they came back for the couples therapy. And she said that he had at one point said he didn't want to be in a marriage anymore, and he said that, you know, how did I get to that point? You know, because of what you said, etc. So they're really fighting their last leg. You know, the relationship's on the ropes right now. I can't lie to you. You know, because when you start saying them things, we know that you on the edge. So, what's your thoughts right now about where Brandon and Christina are at right now? What you saw on their session? What's your thoughts with Brandon and Christina? Anybody can take it. Oh, good to see you back, Sean.
There is a lot underneath the surface, and it's literally right underneath the surface. And I saw this earlier. I think even in the first episode, it seems like they're at a place that they don't, especially him, that he doesn't like her. And, you know, sometimes you might not like your spouse at a moment in time, but not continuously, right? And there's not that bond where I've seen them hug and kiss and, you know, and say, even though we're going through a lot, like, I still love you. I still want to be with you. I still think you're the best. Like, I don't see that at all. I see a lot of resentment, and I see her fighting to the end, even though she sees how bad it is, how he resents her. And he said, ever since I got married, you know, my career has been going downhill. So there's that blaming, and there's just so much buildup. And it's like, wow, you guys really don't like each other, like bad, but you seem to easily mask it over. For some reason, all of a sudden, it's like, oh, we're, you know, I'll fight to the end for him. He'll have to leave me. I won't leave him. Rather than, let's address, why is it that we dislike each other so much? What is all this resentment that has built up? I think it started from the beginning, even before kids. And these are the things that we can sweep under the rug, and they'll grow and grow and grow and grow and grow. And then you forget, like, why don't I like this person? Why am I upset with them? Why, it seems like he didn't look at her when she said, I felt unsafe. I didn't feel protected. He just kind of was just like, no remorse. Unless they edited, it just felt like he was like, oh well, I'm not there. Like, he's cut off. And that's a bad place. That is a bad place to be. And sometimes separation is exactly what's needed to kind of heal from all that trauma and all that whatever mistrust that they have for one another. But the looks they give each other, the words, oh, she's insecure, that was so low cut. I'm like, oh my God, is this your partner? Or it was bad. And she does cry at a drop of a dime. I don't know who said, I think it was Phil. She cries a lot. And that is an indication that something is right underneath that surface. It doesn't take much. There's so much hurt that is building up that it just takes a little bit for her to release all her emotions. I feel bad for her. And I do believe he is definitely a master manipulator. Definitely.
I think it's poor communication. Christina needs to be honest and say, I still don't trust you for betraying my trust with your last musical artist. She needs to effectively communicate that with him and tell him that she does not trust him. He's broken her trust and he's not regained it back. I do agree with you, Sophie. He's trying to blame her for why he can't do these certain things in the music business. And to be fair and honest to Brandon, he has to be in nightclubs. He has to be on the scene partying. That's a part of the music culture. He has to do those things. But could you not go to those clubs before you were talking to this female artist or after? Is the real question. It's poor communication. She does not trust him. And then he allows others to sort of be his spokesman. I think Anthony and Bravo, they're his spokesman. They say all the things he can't tell Christina, and that's why she doesn't feel protected in that marriage. It's poor communication. They say they love each other and they want to make it work for their family. If you do, I think instead of marriage mentors, they need marriage counseling, so someone can teach them some positive and effective communication skills, because what they have going on right now is not it. She doesn't trust him. Plain and simple. Dog, you played me out to your last female artist. Now every time you're with another female, I think you're playing me out as well to another artist. So if they don't get their communication on track, the marriage definitely won't last.
Go for it, Sean.
I guess maybe I have a little bit of an unpopular opinion with the two of them. I mean, I definitely agree that Brandon needs to stay out of the lady stuff. He shouldn't be adding fuel to any flames. That whole thing wasn't a moment for him to protect his wife. He should have just sat back. In terms of their relationship, I think this is what I see is normal miscommunication and things that you see play out in relationships. And I am happy that they do have the therapists, or those coaches, the dating coaches, right? Because many couples, they don't bounce ideas off of people. They just kind of suffer in silence and just need some help, getting through things. So I think, look, they seem like they love each other. Brandon definitely has some work to do around communication. And I think Christina also, I think it's how to effectively argue. And that's something that a lot of people don't learn in relationships. And sometimes they learn it's too late. You argue and you go to the worst, so if somebody says this, then you feel justified for saying that, right? They're both wrong, and I don't think she should go and get cocky to try to prove she's not insecure by saying like I can get any, she's saying she can get any man she wants. That I think is not the right response, and the ends don't justify the means. But I think, listen, it's entertaining. I've seen a whole lot worse. I think they just have to get on the same page.
So I'll take where Sean's going with that, and I'll take it to a broader spectrum. This is the thing: when you are dealing with infidelity and somebody cheating, you cannot police. You as a cheater cannot police how long it takes for you to heal. What your responsibility to do is help me through my healing. Now, you can only help me so far, and that's where I agree with Sean that she has to do some of the work too, because you trying to hold him hostage is not going to help you heal. You have to give him some reign to do what he's going to do and watch him move. If he continues the pattern, then you just need to figure out how to let go of this relationship. Or you're just going to have to deal with the pattern if you don't want to let it go. So that's the point that you have to make up in your mind on what you're going to do. In his regards, he has to open the floodgates of communication and be open and honest and transparent with you until you get to a point of trusting again. You both have to work together if this is where you want to be, to repair that damage that was broken, that bridge that's broken now, to get back. Both of y'all are standing on each side waiting for the other one to make the move. You both have to move together. You both have to lay down your pieces of wood and make it work all the way to the middle. You can't be waiting for this one person to say, oh, well, you can't do this and you can't do that. No, you're hindering that person's life. And so that's where I see him, like you said, Sophie and Phil, he's blaming her a lot because of what he did. And that's what you cannot do as the villain. You cannot sit here and cut somebody and then blame them for bleeding. You know what I'm saying? Like, you did it. You're the one who made that scar. So yes, you have to find a Band-Aid. You got to patch up the wound, and then you got to let her relax enough so she can heal. She has to do her part in this and sit there and say, you know what? Let me allow you to get back to the way you used to move and working slowly but surely. But I have some stipulations. And as time continues, she has to let go of those rules and stipulations. One by one. She cannot be going through the phone. She cannot be finding out everywhere he's going. Him going to places and her finding out like that opens that wound every single time back up. And that's the problem. He keeps reopening the same wound and not giving her time and space to heal, and then wants to blame her on her being insecure, not trusting him, and these things. You both have to work together. I do feel like they was married too soon, especially from coming from two different places. You guys weren't even dating long enough. You basically met online, and y'all was in two different states, and you got married within 6 months. So you've been learning each other through the growth and development of this relationship. And you're kind of resenting each other in the space of, now I'm stuck with you because I married you. Well, you're stuck and you got to work on it. So.
And don't forget when Brandon was like, you care about image. Remember, he said, you're more into this image of us being married than you are about us. Like, I remember him saying that a few times. But I hear you, Jay. Yeah, I think the whole, they got married, they might have got married too early, and it's catching up with them. You got to have a very strong common bond for you to stay married, to stay in love, to keep that fire going. And I don't see any fire between them.
Yeah. And can I?
Oh, go ahead. No, I was just going to say something real quick. I was going to say that common bond too, Sophie, is communication and comprehension. You can't just be communicating and not understanding each other. So you got to do them both. Go ahead.
Okay. I just wanted to add to Sophie and Jay's point. And I noticed this. Y'all remember when Christina made this proclamation that she would never leave her marriage? Brandon wants to leave the marriage. Brandon does not want to be looked at as the bad guy, as the villain, because he keeps saying, so do you want to end this? Do you still want to be with me? And see, when you know that a person is never going to leave, Brandon pulls those stunts because he knows she's never going to leave, just like Sophie said about the image. Church girl. She doesn't want to get divorced. And like Jay was saying, they got married too quick. My question is, did he have this job when they got married? Because anybody knows if you're in the music business, you're going to be out in the clubs, you know, you're going to be networking. But my thing was, when she found the text messages, she should have left. She didn't teach him anything. She just told him, well, I could talk about you and say I don't like you. You're going to pout, you're going to cry, but you're not going to leave. Brandon is one of them type of guys. They're the type of men that they like a Christina, but a Christina bores them eventually. Because I've been the anti-Christina, and I've been the one that I've broken up with the guy because of too much, crap, and they go get a Christina, and then they get married, and then they get bored, and then they start calling me. I'm like, oh, okay, see, the girl that just lays over, see, that's boring. That's not a challenge. And like Brandon was saying, like Sophie said, the image. He knows that she wants to keep the image, so he can do what he wants to do. She's not going to leave. Colby is not going to leave. They're church girls. Dr. Latoya, on the other hand, see, she'll bounce. When she told Anthony to come back, and he came back. That's what I noticed.
You know, it's interesting. I think with Brandon and Christina, I hope that I hope that it's more of the case of the fact that, he's more tired of the relationship, which actually can be solved, because people get tired. It can be solved. People get tired. If that person is tired, then they had some stamina before it's just run out. Sometimes a fire needs to be rekindled. But one of the things I know about cheating is that once you cheat, a lot of us as men can't cope with the guilt. So the guilt is what's actually making you want to act out and move mad, because you want it to be over and done with. Like, forgive me already, right? We can't sit in that bad that you've done. And so sometimes the guilt of doing the wrong, you want it to get over and done with real quick. Get it over and done with real quick. And it's not going to happen that way, right? Christina's not going to let you get away with it. She can't get over it that quickly. And so it's changing things. One thing I would say is that I think being let me say this. Okay, so and by the way, this is not a justification. It is an explanation of behavior. Before someone quotes me and goes, I'm not. I am simply explaining some behavior, right? By the sounds of what I'm hearing, some of the words he says, and the way he's tried to keep her at bay from her work and stuff like that, right? We talk about men being a safe space for women, and I agree, he should be. He's awful at protecting her emotionally. We've seen that several times. But you ever had that girl that just does too much? That she's just all up in your grill and your space. After a while, it becomes frustrating and annoying. Now, it's not an excuse for cheating. He should never cheat. He should have explained this and had a conversation with her. But when someone's all up in your grill, all too much, look, I don't think that her calling him every single minute is because he cheated. That's her. She's been that way. She's always been that way. And it's now magnified, right? It's now magnified because of the cheating. She's always been that way. The reality of the situation is he wants to breathe. He can't breathe. This is why he now blames her for the business failing, because he can't breathe. When in reality, the situation is you failing because you failing. You ain't failing because of her, right? But now you blaming her because you're deflecting from the real issue. You cannot breathe. Sorry to give the Eric Garner kind of situation, but but he can't breathe, and so because of that, right? Because of that inability to be able to breathe, and after a few years, it gets really tiring and really annoying. And maybe I've just because I've seen some things up close and personal. The home now becomes the territory of the enemy. You've now become my enemy, my own home. look, as a man, I want to come home and I want to have some motherfucking peace. And sometimes that peace means you're not gonna nag me, right? I'm just saying it. You know what I mean? Like sometimes I want to come home and I don't want to hear in my ear. You know, I'm not saying that it's one-sided. I'm only giving the other side. I'm not saying it's one-sided. I'm saying I'm just giving the other side. And sometimes that can be so frustrating that when you're coming home to somebody who just is not giving the right energy. And that's why he was even talking about the fact that that she kind of, you know, disrupted the energy when she was calling him at work. Now, of course, I think he was a little bit cheeky for that. Ooh, apologies, cheeky for that as well, because, you know, he knew that he wasn't communicating with his wife. But I do feel like there is an aspect that he needs from her, and I need him to communicate that, what exactly it looks like, what he actually needs. Let me tell you something. Christina's not innocent. Let me tell you why. That girl dropped a bar in the bar. Okay, all right. In amongst episode 3, all the arguing that they were doing and saying, and you know, right? She was like, you know, I can have another you in a minute. Now, when someone can drop that bar to you, now someone might say, well, she was hurt, that's why she said that. No. Christina meant what she meant. She meant it. I can have another you in a minute. And so, look, I'm not saying that she is a major person to blame. I think my final point is to say that any infidelity requires, I mean, most people won't make it through infidelity because they really need to understand that both parties are grieving a loss. Right? This is what's scary about it, right? I know you're the victim of the cheating, but you know you need to understand that other person's also a victim now. I know it sounds kind of mad, right? Because it's like, how are you the victim when you cheated? Well, the reality of the situation is they're now grieving the loss of the relationship, how it once was as well. They're now grieving the way that you now don't trust them in every situation too. They're also having to adapt. This is why someone has if the marriage counselors are on them, they need to be heavily involved in this period of time, because this is like having an injury and coming back from an injury. And you need to kind of be very careful about how you nurse back the health of that injury so that it doesn't re-injure itself again. Because there are foundations that need to be rebuilt back up. They need to be speaking to Brandon heavily to let him understand, you know, you've broken this relationship and you've broken her trust. You know, do you know how long it takes to even rebuild that kind of trust? They say it can take between 6 to 24 months. You ain't free, player. Okay, so you've now destroyed something, and if you really want to focus on rebuilding the relationship, it could take up to 24 months for her to not even fully, but to come back to a place where trust is now at some level of equilibrium where she can be comfortable enough to say, well, he's out there and I know he's doing what he's doing, but he's gonna come home, he's gonna be comfortable, right? And so that also is a heavy aspect that he needs to start coming into understanding. We need number 2. We need to know, why the hell did you cheat? Do you know why you cheated? He didn't have sex with a girl. He emotionally connected with a girl. Do you know why you cheated? Like, you need to come to that understanding. Otherwise, we're going to be in the same position as we were before. Was this hashed out before they got to that stage of saying, we're going to get back into it and do it again? You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of conversation that needs to be happening with these two in terms of repairing this relationship since they are deciding to go forward with one another. This whole no go to the club is nonsense.
Yeah.
Okay? It's an act of control. Yes.
I get your point, you know, about the 6 to 24 months to get over something. But they talked about this was at the beginning of their marriage, and they've been married 11 years. So when she, you know, you said she dropped that bar about I can get another, I was sitting there like this, girl, you talking smack, you're not going anywhere. Just like now for me, when she called the studio, I didn't get that as a, hey babe, how you doing call.
I agree.
I got it as a nagging call. It was like the energy. So that's what I'm just curious about. It's been 11 years. I'm like, girl, ain't you tired?
Not if they haven't repaired the original injury. I've got an ACL injury. I got an ACL injury, MCL, which is the inner of my knee, right? Mm-hmm. It's not healed. I'm not playing football again. Not the way I used to. I can't do the twists and turns. It's done. And to be fair, maybe some of it was also my own stupidity when I was healing it. I was still trying to come back. You saw me do my TikTok. I was doing all this dance on it. I was doing everything on the knee. I don't really care. Now I was at a place where I just know that I can't play ball again. I can't do twists and turns. Like, so maybe there's some foundational work that needs to be done to repair some injury. Even though it's 11 years, even though they've done 11 years, if that foundational piece has not been solved, it just keeps reoccurring in different, it just appears as a different monster, but it's got the same foundation. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
She don't trust
I
him
got you. But
because they didn't
I
even do
guess-
nothing right now.
I guess my thing as a woman, and I want to get everybody else's opinion, I can't be with someone I can't trust. I mean, and in a marriage, I'm like, aren't you emotionally drained? Aren't you tired? That's why I look at her as like, girl, it's like neither one of them wants to make the first move, because I really think they just don't need to be together. There is, everybody's not meant to be with everyone forever. They got married too fast. Apparently, they never had conversations on how the marriage is going to work. I mean, I don't want any marriage to break up, but it's kind of like you guys don't look happy. And it looks like no one wants to change, you know?
So you said, I can't be with anyone I can't trust. That means that you, as me, I have to do the work and trying to find how to regain trust with somebody. Now, they need to help me if they want me to stay with them, yes. But I have to do most of the work because I'm the one feeling the lack of trust. I'm the one feeling the insecurity of it all. And I have to figure out a way how I get past that. You know what I'm saying? So I get you where you say I can't be with somebody. And yes, if she feel like she really can't trust this man, she should walk away. However, if she feels deep down in her heart that she can repair her part of herself, that he tap into, because there was trust before you met this man there, enough to sit here 6 months later and marry him. You have to figure out how to get back to that part of you. He can only do so much.
Jay, do you think they were in lust when they got married and that was the problem?
For sure.
Because, different states, got married in 6 months.
I'm the different type, though. You can't ask me because there's some people out here that get married within 6 months and it worked out for them or whatnot. Me,
True. I mean, just in their case, because they really don't know each other.
I can't really speak in their case. I can only assume from how I feel. So
I don't know. I guess I don't see it that extreme, guys. They've been married for 11 years. They're gonna go through some stuff. We're seeing it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think these are commonplace issues that come up in marriages. It's not like, oh my God, she needs to run. No, they just need to learn how to effectively work through their challenges. Now, could it lead to divorce? Sure. But I don't see anything that's just so glaring, like she needs to go. Like, he needs to learn when he should be defending his wife and not. But they're also on a reality television show. So we know we're going to get some drama. We know we're going to get people acting out. So other than that, I think they're working through some challenges. And I saw an interview that she had done, a little piece of it. And I think, too, they have some differences. He's grew up biracial. So his dad is black and his mom is white. So this is from what she says, that there were just certain things that he brought to the relationship that he didn't know. And it came from the way that he was brought up and how he saw things run in his household. And some of those things were obviously wrong that he's duplicating. And that's what he has to learn to, they're going to learn to work through it over. Like, I guess, listen, from somebody that has been married before, I have tons of friends that are married. These issues are just not, this is not like, oh my God, they need their bolts. They need to head for the doors. I don't see it that way.
I think that, to go back to Kojo, your statement, I think she hit him with the Beyonce line because he called her insecure, and she just wanted to remind him, I'm not a bad looking chick, so if I wanted another dude, I can get another dude. The second thing, I think, it's not only the cheating, she also mentioned to Kobe, he's not hands-on with the kids, so when he comes home, he thinks he can just sleep and just chill, but she wants some more support with the kids, because if you've been out all night working with your artist and you come home late, so in the morning when you wake up, you deal with the kids so I can go follow my dreams as well. So I think that's another piece of the puzzle. I do think she shouldn't call him. I don't think she's a nagging wife. I don't see her as being that type. Well, let me take that back. Now, after the cheating thing, Kojo, I definitely see her calling being a little bit of a nagging wife. But again, you have to ask yourself, why do I call you now? Because I don't trust you. So that goes back to Jay's point, meaning that they both have to work on the relationship and heal and learn to trust one another. But the one thing I see with Brandon is it's all about him. It's never about anyone else. It's all about his feelings. And when you get married or you're in a committed relationship, especially as a father, you need to think about others. It's him and his career. I think the issue with Christina is that she feels like she's ignored in a relationship, like she's on the back burner. It's you and your dreams, it's you and what you want to do, and then I'm just supposed to be in the background with the kids. I don't think she is going to leave that marriage, but I do believe that I think Sean is correct. I do think it's just relationship ebbs and flows. But I think with Brandon, he needs to think about his wife sometime. Just sometimes. We haven't seen him think about his wife any of the time. The whole lavender field anniversary, that was a scene for the show. That wasn't even something that you wanted to do nice for your wife. That was a scene for the show. I think Christina wants him to say, I'm thinking about you and how you may feel. I don't know if she's a nag, but I do think I just see selfish in the clown. He's very selfish and about his needs and his wants and his career goals and his this and his that. Nothing about the family. It's just me, 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 me.
Phil, to piggyback off of you, have you noticed that Colby and Christina are influencers, and I just have this suspicion that their husbands don't really take their profession seriously. It's kind of, well, you can bend for me. It's never let's work on this together. And I think that's part of the issues, because there are a lot of influencers that make good money, but I just get this impression that they don't really have respect for their profession as influencers.
So my best friend, she's a up and coming influencer or some sort, and to be honest, I don't respect what she be doing either. It'd be a little annoying to me when she wants to make a video and I'm like, I really don't want to make this video or something like that. But it is something. I support her dreams and goals for her trying to be this influencer, but they definitely don't respect it. Russell definitely doesn't care about Kobe's career aspiration. Neither does Brandon. They're selfish. Anthony is too. All three gentlemen are the same. They're selfish and manipulative. It's all about them and their wants and needs.
That's a Carlos King thing. If you look at Love and Marriage Huntsville, Love and Marriage Detroit, Love and Marriage DC, well, DC's not too as bad, the husbands. You got to have a wife who's pressed and a husband that's manipulative, misogynistic, very controlling. You see it through all three of these series. Now, the one thing I will say about Detroit that I do like, because these are influencers, they are spilling all the tea. I will say that. I cracked up in the first episode how much tea was spilled. So we're getting it all. But yeah, all these men they're very manipulative. I mean, even Anthony, your wife is a doctor doing COVID. Because not once did I hear him say, okay, well, maybe we can get your mom to help out while I'm gone, or we'll work out something. He just bolted like she's a doctor, and then it's COVID. So it's like they just don't have respect for their wives, really.
I would disagree. I would give a disagree. I would say, I I wouldn't say they don't have necessary respect for their wives. I think they have maybe archaic ideas of their wives and what role they want them to play. And so I really feel like we're in a generation now where we're starting to see what we call power duels, right? We're having power duels because where, you know, you having two career mind driven people, you know, it's about who's going to cut up and who's going to do what. You know what I mean? This is where the gender roles comes in and who's going to do what. And I think a lot of times for a lot of guys, that's a very heavy adjustment that's happening. And I always talk about this, and I've been saying this for the last few weeks. It doesn't matter whether women earn more or not. Your value is not tied to your provision. So the way that your mind thinks is considerably different. What I see from these men are aspects of when it comes to them leading, having weaknesses, right? So, for instance, Russell wants to lead, but without real good communication with his partner to say, hey, look, we got to take ideas together and work it as a partnership. His weaknesses, really and truly, he wants to run through the idea and get straight to it and nail it and get it going, right? Because he's very on the ball that way, right? Brandon is someone who, and Brandon's suffering right now. And he's suffering because he's not where he wants to be. And instead of looking at where he needs to be and how to get there, all he's seeing is the constraints of a family. And the reality of the situation, someone needs to grab Brandon and say, bro, your family can actually be the reason why you become where you need to become. He's seeing the inadequacies and the shortfalls of where he is and looking at it as because I'm having to cater towards a family, that's why I'm here. It just needs a change of mindset, right? He's in a depressive state where he's blaming the wrong things and not seeing it the right way, right? You know, in this instance, he could really, like, honestly, if your wife is an influencer, you should be, your mind could be starting to think about how this two could even conjoin. You know what I mean? Your wife probably could save some of your artists. You know what I mean? Like you're not, you know what I mean? So you got to think about how, as a unit, as a team, can we support one another? And if you're in self-pity mode, and I this is me speaking from a man perspective and saying I do understand where Brandon's coming from, but I also know that is also self-pity, where it's like when you're so frustrated that you're not where you're supposed to do, you turn around and look at the things that you think are holding you back from becoming who you need to become. Hence why he's so vexed at Christina for saying you can't go to a club. It's like that then becomes the key issue as to why I'm not where I am. Bro, whether you're in a club or not, that ain't the reason why you ain't successful. You ain't successful because, I don't even say not successful. You're not as successful as you want to be because potentially there are things that you need to work on to get to that next level. There are connections you need to make that need to help you get to that next level. And so instead of working with your partner to say, hey, babe, look, I need to get to that next level. How do we go about doing this? And maybe bringing her on board and actually asking what her thought process is and making her think that it's her idea. But when it's your idea, you're not thinking. You just want to fight her. And it's going to cause you to lose more and more focus. And I think also the last one, Anthony, when we discuss that, I won't go too deep in him. Do you know what I mean? But, you know, similar situation, you know, for us as men, we are always thinking about how can we achieve the goal, because we are valued by that. So how we're affected emotionally and mentally is considerably different because our value system is considerably tied into us providing. And I know some women are going to say it again, they also provide too. I hear you, but your value is not based upon that. The same way I can't talk about my value being based in my looks. It's not based in my looks. I haven't been judged my whole life about my looks. I've been judged by what I can provide. That's where the pressure comes from. That's why when women get older, there's a pressure there. I'm getting older and I'm like, wow, it is what it is. My money's going up. You get what I'm saying to you? So these men are facing these pressures. What they need to start doing, and what especially Brandon's got a marriage counselor, so this is what he needs to be doing, is actually getting them to have real conversations about what you're suffering through right now and relieve some of that stress and stop blaming your wife for why you are where you are, right? That's what we need to see. And then we need Russell, Colby's dad, to actually pull up Russell and tell him, hey, listen, you can't be making decisions by yourself. Like, it's nuts. So I do agree. The men are failing in that aspect of communication and really kind of seeing a bigger picture. I think they need help, you know what I mean? But I need them to accept the help too. It goes both ways. You can't just
I think it's a
go
power
away.
dynamic. I wish Seaway was here because I remember y'all did a chat a while ago. I think it was talking about men, women, money, and she talked about how her dad is a policeman and her mom is a doctor. But when her parents got married, her mom wasn't a doctor at first. They were like a team to get her mother to the goal of being the doctor, and her parents are still married and happy. And I think, like you just mentioned, that's the issue. They're not a team. They don't talk. Like, okay, for example, my parents been married 55 years. My mother hates housework. She had a lot of extracurricular activities. So they kind of came to the agreement, okay, we're going to have a babysitter / housekeeper come in the house to make this even. First, my dad didn't like it, but my mom was kind of like, hey, this is what we're going to need to do so I could be happy and you could be happy. And what I'm kind of noticing with these couples, no one wants to bend. I mean, to sit up here like Russell and just say, hey, I'm in divinity school. I think when he met Colby, he knew he always wanted to be a pastor and he had a plan. He just thought, she's a PK, she'll be down with being a pastor's wife. He knew that, I think, from the day one when they got married. And of course, her father's not going to say anything because his son-in-law wants to be in divinity. Going to love that. And that is just it's like a power dynamic instead of, like you said, Kojo, working as a team. So everyone gets what they want. You fall back sometimes and I fall up and it goes back and forth. It's just interesting to me.
Go for it, Soph. You want to say something? Oh, I thought you were going to say something. Sean, you got something to say?
Yeah, I guess my opinion is still the same. I think like all of these couples, they have a foundation, right? I think maybe we don't see it in terms of our vision of what marriage should be. However, I just come from the school. I just think people are so quick to just, they're toxic, they're misogynistic, he needs to go. And life it's just so many nuances to life and the way people grow up and what lends itself to the way that they handle situations. And if the people want to change, if they're willing to work on it, I think that it's possible. And I mean, I think with Brandon and Christina, who we've been talking about, yes, do they have some issues or there's some things that they need to get on the table? But name me one married person that hasn't had a hill to climb, that hasn't had something major to overcome. You don't merge two people together and it's just hunky-dory and it's all roses, and everybody quoted Michelle Obama, right? She said there were times she could not stand her husband. So this is real. And we just happen to have the privilege of seeing a line of sight in it. But marriage is a choice. It's a choice every day. You're going to hit bumps and hurdles. There's going to be times where you two don't like each other. There's going to be times when you two may look at each other and be like, why am I with this person? But if you're able to keep moving on, if you're able to fight another day, if you're able to continue to say, hey, listen, this is how this made me feel and that's how that made me feel, you can work through it. But I just don't feel like, oh my God, this is the end. She needs to leave. He's the worst. He's a Neanderthal. It's marriage. It's marriage. And she has some flaws and he definitely has some. But it's not like, oh my God, she needs to bolt. Or he needs to bolt right now. I think they can work through it. And it looks like from the little bit that we've seen, they are trying to work through it. And when you have two people that can sit down in front of a therapist, a counselor, and somebody, that's a big, huge hurdle that many people get stuck on. And men that don't want to make their marriages work will not be in therapy. They will not. They will avoid it. They will tap dance around it. They will not go. Again, I'm not saying he's perfect, but I do see redeeming qualities in their relationship. And that's it.
Go for it, Soph. You're going to say something?
Yeah. I think, I don't think this is why I said my comment earlier when I said, this is what marriage is. And to be on a show like this, everybody's going to nitpick at it. A lot of people are going to say, if that was me, I wouldn't be in it. But again, these couples seem to be pretty locked down. Like but their mess is being shown on on a public platform. But I do disagree, Sean. There is a point where the contentiousness between them, again, the cheating that happened, the dislike, there's too many red flags that if they don't get some serious therapy and counseling, I don't know. I mean, and people could last in a marriage for 20, 30 years. That doesn't mean it's a happy marriage. It just means that they're going to stay together because of many reasons. They don't have to stay together because they're in love. They stay together to pay the mortgage, to keep up this and that, but they can have two separate lives. So, and also Jay, I think mentioned that, or someone mentioned, or it might be Broco Bougie, that one of them is, both of them are like, I'm not going to end this marriage. Like, I'm not going to leave. I'm not going to abandon this. They're at a real bad stage where you're waiting for the other person to drop the ball almost to get that separation or to get that, the next step. I feel like they're going to be together no matter what, even in this toxicity and trauma. And again, that's how some marriages roll. But there are some deep issues, if they don't address it now, that it's only going to make things worse. And this tit for tat and waiting for some, I can get better if I want to. These are some remarks I used to be married to, that you just, until it's getting close to the end, that's when you start making some of these, I remember being good and in love and not saying these things for years. But then when it got close to the moment of, before divorce, these were some of the things that were exchanged. And it's like, when it gets to a level of, I don't know. It's many people can bounce back, but if you don't get help, I don't know how you could.
You know what? You're absolutely spitting, and I think this is, I think with them, I think with all three, I think I've seen there's issues, but I've also seen that there's hope. You know what I mean? There's other couples where I've seen on other love and marriage, I'm like, yeah, end that, please. End it quick, because it's gonna be dangerous. But I think even with, like, when it's like, I don't feel as bad as when I saw Chris and Monique. When I saw that too, I just knew that was coming to an end. You could just, because the disrespect that was coming, I could see it was coming to an end. They're not there yet, but they are getting there, right? Like, that's the issue, right? Not Russell and Colby. They're not there yet. They're nowhere near there. I don't think they are. Anthony and Latoya, I don't think anywhere near there. But Brandon and Christina are starting to head down that road. And someone needs to pull them up quick and fast. And I think I said this on another live. I said, as men, we have to be very careful and conscious about, when we're hurt, how we begin to separate from our partners. Because as men, we won't voice it. Right? With women, you might get, she'll say the same point over and over again over a course of time. Hey, this needs to change. This needs to change. This needs to change. But as men, we won't say it. Right? We might say it once, but after that, you're going to start seeing us just kind of drifting away. And then if you didn't catch it the first time, you now don't know what the issue is. And I think I need Brandon to actually now get the ball by the horns and save his marriage. That's why I liked what Anthony was doing when Anthony's calling him up and say, hey, bro, you got to go and sort this out. Right? As much as people don't like Anthony and maybe what Anthony does, the fact that Anthony's saying to him, bro, pull up your socks, brother, and go and get your wife. Like, stop this nonsense that you're doing, bro. You need that when you're in a marriage. Even in a relationship, you need your boys to pull you up at points and be like, bro, you got a good thing going. Don't mess it up. Like, get back in the ring. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, people that are in marriages around me, I try to encourage them as much. But if I see my boy, I say, bro, I love what you're doing, bro. I love the fact you're married. I love the fact that you're enjoying this. Keep going, bro. Anytime you need me to talk, I will listen. You know what I'm saying? But I'll always encourage you to go back. Unless she's beating you, I'm encouraging you to go back. You know what I mean? Because I understand that there are going to be times where you're going to be looking for an out. I'm not the out. Okay? Don't come and follow me. It's lonely out here in these streets. It ain't, but don't worry about that. I just want to say that for it doesn't come out. But so I try to encourage them to, whatever, keep going, bro, like keep going, stay where you are. And I think for Brandon, he does need, he does need some more male. It seems like some more males around him just to be able to hear what he's saying. But those males also need to be able to like, hey, bro, we heard you now. Take your ass back. Go and sort this out with your wife. Go and bring this back. You know what I mean? Work whatever needs to be worked out, because you go and quit. You might regret it, bro. Like, you've been together for 11 years. Clearly, there's a reason why you stayed together this long. Y'all have kids now as well. Like, you need to figure out what the solution is to the problem, you know? Yeah, Jay, you opened your mic. You were going to say something.
Yeah. So I must say something that Sean told me before too, and I thought was very valid advice. Check in with your partner on a regular. Just ask, how am I showing up for you? How can I better show up for you? Where am I lacking and where am I excelling? You know, sometimes you got to do these check-ins with your partner from time to time, just to make sure that they are okay. You have these conversations to make sure we are okay. We're on the same page. And I think that's what happens over time, especially in an 11-year relationship, that things then happen, that we're no longer checking in with each other. We're no longer making sure we're on the same page. We're just assuming, because we're both still here, that we both want the same thing. And we've grown. We've been maturing in our own individual rights. And yet, if we're not checking in with the team, coming to practice as a team, therefore we're not growing together for the championship. We're just doing our own thing, run up and down the court. You can't just be doing the own thing, run up and down the court and expect us to win. You know what I'm saying? We have to come together. We have to have meetings. Say, here we are. Here I am. This is me today. Yesterday, I was on this, that, and this. Today, this is what I'm on. Can you meet me? Where are you at? And I think that's where Brandon and Christina are failing at, is because they're not communicating properly to one another, except for when they're in their heightened, intense moments. Then they want to speak, but now you're speaking out of hurt. You have to have some of these conversations when you're in a good space and say, you know what? Okay, let's talk about what happened, this, that, and the third. And I'm taking advice from Sean, you know what I'm saying? Like, this was solid advice. And I told Sean then, it's like, sometimes I have a hard time holding on to things and coming back to them later. Once I move past them, I move past them. But, you know, if you are one of those couples that can wait a week, wait 2 weeks, when you're calmed down and say, hey, this is what happened. This is how this made me feel. Please, let's figure out how we cannot have this happen again, because I didn't like it. If you can do it then, great. I have to take my 30, 40 minutes because that's just me, and then I'll come back to you. You know, but when we're in the height of feeling some type of way and our emotions are on the negative side, sometimes that's not the best time. And we can't be holding everything in, waiting and just trying to be, okay, we'll fix it with love. We'll fix it with this. We'll fix it with everything else outside of communication and understanding. You can't do that, because all you're working with is what you have in your head, your logic of what's going on, your POV, your fairy tale, and this, and that other person's doing whatever they're doing over there. So, yeah. Solid advice from my brother.
Thank you, Jay. Listen, I mean, I see a couple of people that in the comments that are married, and a couple have said, listen, they understand it. Like, I'm not saying you should tolerate bad treatment, you know, or be in a struggle situation, but there's no way two people are going to be together for 11 years. And every single, you put a camera on those people in their relationship,
you're going to see something.
You're going to see some things. You follow me by myself, interacting with my friends and, you know, people I'm dating. You're going to see some things and you're like, oh, I didn't know that, because everybody has something. You get what I'm saying? Like, everybody has something, and you can see it's easy to see the flaws in other people when you are a viewer. And I get it. I'm not saying we shouldn't discern, we shouldn't look at certain things, but ultimately, like, you think you're all that, you know? I know I'm not all that. I know I can be very difficult to deal with at times, right? I do know that I try my best to communicate, but that does not negate how someone may experience me and how it could be a problematic thing. But it's stuff that you can work through. You know what I mean? Like, everybody out there is not all good. You're not all good all day, 24 hours a day. You wake up being nice, saying all the right things to your loved ones. No, sometimes you say mean things. Sometimes you say hurtful things. Sometimes it's on purpose and sometimes it's not. Are you willing to work through those things? Are you willing to have the conversation? Are you willing to talk about it? Because expecting to say, oh no, that's never going to be me. Yeah, if you stay single, it might not be you. And I'm not condemning anyone to singledom and saying singledom is something to be shamed about. I'm saying that when you're single, you get to dictate exactly what goes on your space, and everything can be just the way you think it should be, because you're not having to deal with another person. When you have to deal with another person, you're going to deal with some problems. People are going to do things that you don't like. They're going to show up in ways that are problematic to you. Men and women are different, you know, and I know we love this misogynistic word, but men and women are very different. Our brains and our minds work completely different. So might I have a misogynistic thought? Yes. Might I say something or a concept that can be perceived as misogynistic? Absolutely. That doesn't make me somebody that hates women. It makes me somebody that maybe there's more I need to learn. You know, more you need to share with me, more that we can talk about. And trust me, there's plenty of things that women do that drive men completely nuts. And it could sound like they hate us too. But I don't think that's the case. I think it's people having to figure out working through things in a marriage. So I think we're just too quick to dismiss everybody that has a problematic response or maybe does something, they hate women. Not necessarily, you know? And if we talk about the patriarchy, right, we understand that the patriarchy and us living in a male-driven society is stuff that has to be unlearned. Every man doesn't just walk through the door. Oh, I got it. I'm good. I totally support women. I believe in everything you do and want, you know, all the best for you. No, some of the things we have to unlearn. Some of the things we have to share that have to be shared. And some of the things are things that are designed that way for a protection, right? Like men are stronger, so we can protect you. We shouldn't weaponize our strength, but we are stronger for a reason. So some of the things that make us upset are things that are created in us for very right reasons.
You know, great point as well. I think even adding just, you know, some of the difficulties people are going to face. I think Jay mentioned something, and it's so interesting. I was just scrambling for my brain, and I was like, I remember even in the last relationship, no matter how bad it was, I remember at one point, I think we did one check-in, did the second one. I remember the third one, I was like, I don't really want to do a check-in. I'm like, and I remember that it's going back to my own trauma. And this, I'm saying this so that people can actually, maybe you can learn from this as well, right? And something I'm working on. So I'll be very honest with you. It's not complete. It's a work in progress in this particular aspect, right? But I didn't want to do any more check-ins because I felt like I wasn't perfect. And I don't want you to pull me up on this stuff. I didn't want the critique. I didn't want you to say, this is what you can work on. Why? Because I wasn't realizing that there's a perfectionist spirit in me which is actually not aiding me. It's actually creating more issues for me in a relationship, right? That I feel like I have to be perfect. I have to be absolutely 100%. And because of that fear of being critiqued and not being 100 and not being seen as perfect, right? I didn't want to check in. I don't want to be critiqued. You know what I mean? That's one aspect. That's one thing that can even cause issues in a relationship. You know what I mean? If you're not aware of that. Number two, I'm a fearful, avoidant attachment style. I noticed from the last relationship, I take 2 licks before I start going, some of this is intentional. What she doing is intentional. Oh, is that what we're doing? All right, let me pull back. Right? Now imagine, and of course the relationship was a very toxic, Toxic sounds. Toxic means that both people are doing it. It's abusive because it wasn't both people doing it. I was getting murdered. But I would say there was parts that I was, you know, like I said, you have to always be accountable. There's parts where why did I choose that person, etc., etc. You know, I've said this before. But I think the other aspect, which I think was very important, is I realized it didn't take long for me to start feeling like I want to pull away. Right? I got hit twice, and I was like, I want to pull away. I don't like this. Right? And I need, and in those moments, I needed to pull myself back in. Right? But for me, I wanted her to reel me back in. I wanted her to say something that would be like, okay, you still care. Let me reel myself back in. In reality, I actually needed to wheel myself back in. But I wasn't used to wheeling myself back in, right? Because I played, quote unquote, the nice guy, the victim for so long that you don't realize you're living in victimhood. And so instead of wheeling yourself back and saying, you know what? Okay, I hear it. Like, yo, I feel like I've been hurt by the situation, but I'm going to wheel myself back in. We'll go again. You know what I mean? Let's try and have a conversation, etc., and see how we can move it forward. No, I decided to stay on the edge. You better wheel me back in. Not me being bougie and me being all this. Yo, wheel me back in. You better say something that's going to wheel me back in. You better show me something that's going to... I'm looking for a grand gesture now. Let me know that you care. But actually, all of that is actually taking away from the relationship. Because in some... And of course, there are going to be some times where, yes, that person needs to wheel you back in. But there has to be some level of ownership on my end to say, you know what, brother, you're hurt by this, but you're drifting away. And you need to row the boat back towards that relationship. Otherwise, you're also creating issues for the other partner because they can see that you begin to pull away. How are they going to react? Now it becomes this vicious cycle, right? Of me triggering you, you triggering me, I'm triggering you, you're triggering me again. And that's not going to cause any unity in a relationship. So I'm also realizing, that's what I'm saying, like, I'm looking at Brandon, I'm looking at Christina, and I'm saying, I can see that they got major issues, but it's fixable if they're willing to work it. And if Brandon's willing to be open and be transparent and vulnerable with what he actually feels, I think that's the job of the counselors, what they should be doing. They should be getting him to a place where he's vulnerable and he can be transparent about how he really feels. I'll tell you this now, if he tells us how he really feels, he's going to say some things about Christina. He's going to say some things about Christina. And some things that some people might not agree with because it's like, oh, no. But to him, it's pissing him off. And he needs to be honest about it because it's causing him to drift and move mad. You get me? So as men, we do need to be vocal about some of the things that we find frustrating or we don't like. And we should be open to saying it to our women. And it shouldn't be seen as being misogynistic. Now, of course, if you're a person who's berating your partner and always shouting at them, yes, that person's misogynistic. But, you know, we should be able to say, hey, I don't like this and I don't agree with this. And this is not working for me. You know what I mean? Yeah.
The beautiful thing about your situation, Kojo, is that you're doing it in a dating process. Unfortunately for them, they're married now. So it's kind of, I'm a forced hand to fix it. You know what I'm saying? I have to fix it. And like you said, if he is honest, and I think what he needs to do is sit down with the counselors by himself first so they can work through the wording of how he expresses himself instead of just doing it flat out in front of her. Because when he's on the spot, you can tell he kind of shuts down and doesn't want to really say what he's going to say in fear of actually hurting her or making her feel some type of way. And that lets me know he actually doesn't really want to get a divorce. Because like you said, Sophie, when you get to that point of wanting to get a divorce, you don't care how it comes out your mouth. You're going to say what you got to say. You're going to speak your speech. But he doesn't really want to say anything because he knows deep down inside it's going to cause her pain and possibly more problems down the road. So he needs to sit with the counselors, figure out a way to word what he is feeling on the inside in a nice, I don't even want to say a nice way, but a realistic, polite, respectable way for her to digest it. And she has to accept the things that he is sit and process those things that he says to her, and then come back. Don't just react in it. Just sit there and let it sink in of what he's actually saying to you.
100%, Jay. And you know what's interesting? Because now you're saying this, it's making me really think about their situation, right? So he's also passive aggressive. And when people are passive aggressive, it's because they can't communicate assertively, he doesn't know how to do it very well, right? And now you're saying it's making me think back to the very first episode. That very first episode where Anthony said you're going to the club, and she said he ain't going to the club, right? Who was advocating for him? It was Anthony. He wasn't advocating for himself. He couldn't tell her to keep. Hey, you can't. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like I said, that she won't be able to say that if I'm a person that goes, you can't say that to me. I'm going if I'm gonna go. Don't ever try to talk to me that. Don't speak for me in public and say I can't do something. That ain't gonna run. You know what I'm saying to you? Yes, Sean, go for it.
Yeah, I just think that's a recipe for getting the exact opposite of what you want. Anytime you
Absolutely.
tell a man what he's not going to do, it doesn't bode well. Simone tried to tell Rashid what he's not going to do, what he shouldn't do. It don't work. Christina tried to tell Brandon what he's not going to do. Colby trying to tell Russell, well, this ain't going to be us because this is not what you're going to do. It's not right. I'm not saying it's right, but don't get to, that. I think sometimes I've seen this in relationships where the lines get blurred, in the same way that, we're not the boss of the women we're in relationships with, right? And we don't lord ourselves over them. Women aren't our mothers. Our women are not our mothers. And you need to relearn how to express yourself and not throw out ultimatums or what you're not going to do, because that doesn't work. Even with the least aggressive guy, they're going to do what they want to do. And you telling them what they're not going to do doesn't last long.
Sean, is it made even worse because they did it in public? My mother always said, when you see a couple do that in front of their friends, she was like, that's the beginning of the end.
I mean, listen, people tussle in public. As long as it's not going to the left, and we're cursing each other out and calling. Sometimes it's good. I've found the times when I've had arguments or disagreements in public, in the right space with the right friends, people can help you, because you're hearing somebody else's side. Your friends can kind of chime in and say, hey, you're going too far. Right now, again, the right people, the right spaces. But I think if you're saying that a woman can say that behind closed doors to a man, no, you can't do it, because Simone didn't tell him that in front of the public. She only recounted the story back to us after, but it was in their communication where she told him, you can't do this and you can't do that, and until I approve it, and I can't do this. If you can't manage a man or anybody in a relationship like a child or like you manage your business. It just doesn't flow.
Well, true. That's a very valid point, but it just seems to me like it was performative. And it's kind of like you're not trying to be a partner, you're trying to be somebody's mom. That's Simone to receive. Ooh, child, that's a whole nother thing. But like, I thought it was wrongful for Christina to say, you ain't going to the club. I was like, girl, you're not his mother. But like it's like they're performing in front of a crowd. When he talked about Christina's not insecure, y'all, she's not insecure. It's like they're, trying to embarrass each other in public. I was kind of getting that vibe. Something that I wouldn't do in public. I mean, when I've been in a relationship and I might have had an ex that says something crazy, in my mind, I'm like, oh my God, when we get to the car.
But see what that does
in front of a crowd.
What that does too, it actually shows you more than it embarrasses the other person. You know what I'm saying? It made her look more insecure than it made him look like anything. But I do agree with Sean that you just cannot be sitting there telling people, especially one with a rebellious spirit, what they can and cannot do. Because like, if you tell me what I can and cannot do, I'm about to show you what I can and can do. So
kind of like when Rashid went and got that loan and Sloan didn't know about it.
But the thing is, it's the way you tell me. If you come out and tell me, oh, you not, oh no, you not, it's like I am grown. But if you say, babe, babe, I don't think it's a good idea, I might sit back and think about it and stuff like that, and figure out why you feel like it's not a good idea. So it's just exactly Grace Mercy say, speak to me nice, speak to me respectful, speak to me in polite way, and don't sit here and try to act like you my mama or my daddy in front of all these people, unless you doing it in a joking or a grown up relational way.
Tone and delivery. I keep telling people tone and delivery.
Jay, you hit the nail on the head, because you know what came to my mind when you were saying that? I'm gonna hit you with the Usher. Watch this. You tell me what I can't do. Watch this.
Watch this for real.
Watch this. Exactly. Because I don't know. It's just something in me. I don't know that I've been spoken to that way before, but when I hear people like, I hear it, I'm like, yeah, no, that's not gonna work. That's just not, it just doesn't work for me. It brings out the worst in me.
I just be feeling sometimes like, if you my partner, we know each other, you should know the level of respect that I have for you. So sometimes some things don't need to be said. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, I'm gonna talk to you and ask if you okay with certain things, because I'm not trying to step on your toes, because I love you. I get where she jumps in, because that was her insecurity talking right there. She can sit there and say she's not insecure, but she is insecure about his whereabouts. And that's something that she does have to work on. And like Kojo said, and Sean said, if you have the right group of friends to sit there and reel you back in, that was a moment in time like, hey, girl, why you don't want him to go nowhere? We need to figure this out. This is 11 years. If this has happened in the beginning, and granted, yes, if we haven't worked on it, it's still going to hurt, but we have to we got to figure out how we work through this hurt. So as a friend looking at you do this to your dude, I would feel some kind of way, like, girl, why he can't go? Well, what's the problem? Like, he with our man. So what you trying to say? Like, like, hold on, what's going on? So you gonna have me insecure too? Hold up. So now we got to fix this, because I don't want to be insecure about my man hanging out. So why your man can't hang out? You know? So yeah, it would have been a whole girl group. Like, we need to have a meeting real quick. What's going on? I don't know.
Somebody said Brandon is 50. He's not. I don't think that guy is 50. Is he 50?
I don't think so.
If so, he look good for 50, because he don't look 50.
Because I think they're both 40. I think because Christina just turned 40. Yeah. And I think they're around the same age. Yeah, somebody said he looks 50.
You're right.
He doesn't.
He have. You
just don't like him, and it's coloring your perception.
They age faster on that half, so half of them is aging faster.
Oh my god!
Caucasian genes are coming through. So.
No. But you know what? Stress. He might not. It just might be the stress right now. Not the hard 40. Don't give him the Robin.
Oh my god!
Y'all gonna hit him with the Robin hard 40.
Woo! Yo said he's a hard 40.
I think he's a few years older than Christina, though.
Yeah, he should be. I don't know.
Yeah, I think they're like a.
He doesn't seem it.
I mean, he doesn't give me 50, but I think he's a few years older.
He might be in his early 40s. He doesn't act it to me, but okay. I understand.
It's madness in dunya. No, it's a very Manchester dunya. Yeah, no, I'm hearing you. I just, I said, I think we see some hope for Brandon and Christina if they can work it out. Let's talk then. Obviously, the ending couple, Russell and Colby. Are they ending couple? Because we're talking about Anthony and Toya already. Russell and Colby, obviously, their situation. This one, old boy went to the gym. Went and looked at the gym. Said, "I'm gonna make a business proposal. I'm gonna make I'm ready to go on this gym." And then came and told Colby, and Colby was vexed, understandably, with him, because he then tried to. He's funny with this man. He then tried to say, like, if I can't do the day to day, I'm gonna get you to do it. At that point, I'm gonna need Colby to let him know, hey, here's my boundaries. You're crossing them, because, sir. And she did let him know, you're not about to ask me to be part of the day-to-day and not be including me in the business proceedings. No. That's not how it works. So yeah, what's your guys' thoughts on Russell and Colby and their situation in episode 4, because that was quite a conversation that they had about the, telling each other that we should let each other know about different business deals. What's your thoughts? Go for it, Sean.
Oh, me? Oh, shucks. I didn't realize I was off mute. Russell and Kobe. Yeah, I feel like Russell is very disjointed in his thought process and his plans. He seems like he's somebody that just goes from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next. And I think he just needs to he needs to slow down, because the gym is not a business that's going to be super profitable up front. And you're diving into this like it's already set up. And I haven't heard anything from this business that it's just going to be such a moneymaker and he's not going to take an L or have to work to make it go. Just because you like to work out and you're good at fitness, that doesn't mean you necessarily need to own a gym. And ultimately, if you want your wife to be involved, then you need to bring her in the same way you're involved. So I don't understand, is he concerned with the optics of it? He doesn't want to bring her along. Like, what's so difficult to just have his wife included if you want her to have some aspect of involvement in the business? So that part didn't really make sense to me. Yeah. And like you mentioned earlier, he's going from, what did he say his title was going to be? It was like, it wasn't a minister. He gave himself some type of title that he was going for in this divinity school. Chaplain. Okay. Then he went from that to minister. Like, which one is it? What did God tell you? How did God tell you? Like, did you have a Moses burning bush moment? Did you just wake up with a thought and you just put it on God? Yeah, I don't get it. I think he's all over the place. That's what I think. And I think he just needs to rein his thoughts in, have plans, better communicate with his wife, right? And definitely not go to her parents, because he knows that his father-in-law would agree with him because he's a pastor. So I think that was a wrong move, and that he should have spoken with his wife first, and have a plan, have a well thought out plan where she is included. That's what I think.
Russell to me is the most dangerous one. He's the most dangerous husband on the whole show. If anyone in the chat looks at Love and Marriage Huntsville, he is the chocolate version of Maurice. He's very nice. You don't see him exploding like Anthony and Brandon do. But he's the most dangerous one because he's very slick. And I can't stand a person that uses God as an excuse to manipulate a situation. Because he does, oh, God called me. Did God call you not to tell your wife about you want to invest in this gym? To go to divinity school for a few weeks and a master's degree program? Yeah, Russell is very dangerous. You know your wife was a PK. She talked about growing up as a PK. She, doesn't want to get back into that life. So you don't discuss with her this calling from God, but you go to her dad, who's already a pastor, and you say chaplain, because I think he's like National Guard or something like that. And it went from chaplain to pastor. He knew exactly what he was doing from day one. And for the people in this chat, if you watch Love and Marriage Huntsville, Maurice started out like Russell, the nice guy, the chill guy, never raises his voice. And slowly but surely, you see the manipulation going. And Colby, to me, acts she gives me a teenager. Just the way she talks, her responses, it's almost like a father-daughter dynamic between them. They kind of give me. But yeah, I think Russell he's the most dangerous husband on the show because he uses God to manipulate?
Listen, I was not there when God has spoke to this man, nor was I there when God spoke to anybody in the past. But I do know when God spoke to people in the past, there was no mess or confusion within it. They understood the assignment. Moses was not told to build a rowboat. He was not told to bring more than 2 animals on the thing. Everything that God has ever told anybody, they understood the assignment. They completed it. And God also put in, if they were married, their wife's heart, the understanding, regardless if he talked to them or not, there was an understanding. There was a clarity that this was the process that we must go through. The fact that, like Sean just highlighted, he don't switch titles on which position in the church he gonna be in, tells me that it's a little sus. Like I said, I'm not sure if God told him what to do or not, so I'm not going to disagree with him that God said something. But it does seem a little sus that it's going to keep changing depending on who he's talking to. And out of all the people, you never once, at least as far as we know, sat down and prayed with your wife about this decision. You never confirmed with her about this decision, knowing that how she feels about being raised as a PK, possibly raising your daughter as a PK, being the wife of a PK, knowing how she feel about her mother being a PK. That should have been your first mission from God, is to pray with your wife about the situation. Now, that's just my opinion. I could be wrong. However, going from that until now, trying to own a gym, sweetheart, I know plenty places where you can get you a private gym, a small enough gym. You don't have to have much overhead. It's enough for like you and a few clients. I don't even know why you have to own a gym, really, because if you're just a personal trainer, you can go ahead into gyms, get you a membership, and work with the people that's up in there. And a lot of times when you're a personal trainer and you work with certain gyms, they already cover your membership. So why would we start spending more money to hopefully make money after a pandemic when I know 24-hour fitnesses are closing? There are a lot of gyms that are closing right now. So I don't know if God told him to open a gym too, but that's something else that is a bit much. And on top of it, to come to her at the rink and sit there and say, well, if I cannot do the day-to-day work, you're going to need to be there. Well, then, sir, she needs to be going to see the gym with you. If she's going to be doing most of the work, she needs to know what she's doing while she's there. Matter of fact, she actually needs to be having the meeting with the guy more so than you. Because she needs to be asking, what is the overhead? What is the revenue? What costs? What are the expensive these, that, and the third? Because if you expect her to stop her career, because that's what it sounds like you want her to do, stop whatever she got going on to run this for you while you go off and do whatever minister work that you want to do, she needs to be involved a lot more than on a need to know basis, like he tried to put it at the end. When I feel like you need to know something, I'll let you know. No, sir. Because it sounds like I'm running all of it. So I need to know all of it. And I need to know it before you talk to anybody else about it. We need to go to these meetings together. I am your partner. I'm your wife. I'm the mother of your child. I'm the first person before my father, before my mother, before your parents, you need to talk to. Don't go behind my back and talk to my dad knowing that he has a soft spot for certain things. I express to you how I feel about those things. You want to stay married to me? You need to communicate with me first. Then we can go to my parents and ask them how they feel about it. Don't double team me with my parents. Don't do that. That's the wrong move for real. Like I said, y'all got to be careful with y'all. Yes, that's my dog in the back. She has a collapsed trachea. But y'all have to be careful with this situation. Like I said earlier, when you talking to people with rebellious spirits, this is how you end up. them bucking against your system. Just include people in your plans, and you'll find out a lot of times people will be more supportive of your plans. And that's all I got to say on it.
Appreciate it, Jay. We're gonna round it up because I'm starting to fall asleep. So if I don't, I'll fall asleep on this. So I don't know if Sean is there. Yeah, I don't know if he's there. I was gonna let him do the benediction, but if not, we will bring it to a close. But listen, audience, thank you so much for joining us on this particular live. I think there's really good gems in this as well. I enjoyed it as well. So some good vibes. Sorry, Sean, I didn't mean to bring you back early. Just some good vibes and good conversation, and it's been deep as well. So we've got some real fleshed out points that came through as well. So much appreciation. I was just gonna say, Sean, if you want to do benediction, but if you don't, I can round it up, bro.
Sure.
Appreciate it.
So I think we've learned in this particular episode that, you know, we just need understanding, right? As that great Escapes song goes, we just need to understand each other and communicate. And, you know, it's said so often that communication in relationships is critical, and it is, right? And effective communication is even better, right? Because talking is a form of communication, but working through problems, working through issues, navigating challenges is a huge part of relationships, right? And you have to be able to listen to each other, right? Even if you think you're right, the ability to hear your other person is going to bode so much better than not listening and going full tilt on what you believe to be right. Also, don't go backwards. You know, don't do things in a backwards order. If you're in a relationship and you want to make a decision and you want the person to help you, tell them, give them a chance, right? Don't premeditate what they're going to say and then move accordingly. That's the worst thing you can do, because that's a sin of omission, right? So give people a chance, talk, let them know your plans, and then see how to make it happen. And lastly, you know, if your plans aren't working now because you failed to plan, then make a plan, right? And come together and make sure you support each other, but have a plan and have a vision before you just start doing things and making moves that are going to impact your family. Back to you, Coach.
Good points there. Listen, audience, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you as always. It's been a good vibe, and I think some good conversation has been had as well. I won't leave you without a little something.
Not on my watch. Not on my watch.
I was saying to these married couples, and that's what Colby needs to say to Russell. Listen, not on her watch. You ain't gonna just buy a gym just like that. Much appreciation, guys.